Chapter 795. Looking at the sons and daughters of Emperor Qi. Crown Prince Jiang Wuhua was out of the question. Over the years, no matter what happened in Linzi City, the Crown Prince never showed himself. The dethroned Crown Prince Jiang Wuliang was imprisoned in the Greenstone Palace. Emperor Qi did not allow him to leave. Jiang Wuhua seemed to have imprisoned himself as well. Other than the necessary festivals and palace greetings, he basically stayed in the Changel Palace all year round. Every day he cooked, tended to flowers, read books, and painted. Just like his name, he was not flashy at all. He was not like his brothers and sisters, who ran all over the world. His outstanding brothers and sisters ran everywhere, working hard to become the crown prince. However, he did not move at all and minimize his presence, because he was already the crown prince. He was already the crown prince of the Qi. If anything happened to Emperor Qi now, he would be the undisputed successor of this huge empire. Not to mention that Jiang Wang did not know this crown prince of the Qi. Even if he did, Jiang Wuhua would not help him. The crown prince had to hide his chin in the East Palace and would not stir up trouble in the coastal islands. Further down, there were the princes and princesses who were qualified to speak on behalf of Qi to a certain extent. After the battle between Jiang Wang and Lei Zhanxian, the third princess, Jiang Wuyo, specially came to recruit Jiang Wang. Her attitude was not sincere, but it was not casual either. She also specially reminded Jiang Wang to be careful of the Greenstone Palace with Cheng Gengsheng. Now that he thought about it, compared to her intention to recruit him, she probably wanted to provoke Cheng Gengsheng to continue testing the Greenstone Palace. He could be considered as a candidate. The ninth prince's palace of mental cultivation, Jiang Wuxia, had expressed his sincerity many times since the Seven Stars Valley. Although Jiang Wang felt that this person sometimes acted a little frivolous and rude, it was also a manifestation of his true nature. Moreover, they were quite harmonious and had not had any conflicts. If he helped, the chances of success would be higher. Other than that, there was only the 11th prince and the palace lord of the Longevity Palace, Jiang Wuqi. This prince was the closest to the current emperor and had always been the most doted on. His actions were grand and majestic, and he had set his eyes on the world. Perhaps he would be willing to offer a good price. But his cousin was Lei Zhanxian. No matter how fair Jiang Wuxia was, she couldn't disregard blood ties. There was no way he would lower his head to Lei Zhanxian, and Lei Zhanxian would not treat him kindly either. Thus, there was no need to consider the Longevity Palace. Crown Prince Jiang Wuhua, third Princess Jiang Wuyo, ninth Prince Jiang Wuxia, and 11th Prince Jiang Wuqi. These were the only four people who were qualified to compete for the throne of the Qi royal court. Of all the princes and princesses, only they had their own palaces. As for the other princes and princesses, they had either given up early on and lived the rest of their lives as wealthy idlers. Some of them were ambitious and were working hard, but like Jiang Wuyong, their efforts were futile. Ambition alone was far from enough to compete for the throne in such a powerful empire. Back to borrowing power. After much thought, Jiang Wuxia was still the most suitable candidate. After all, the two of them had fought side by side on the floating continent. Speaking of which, it was Jiang Wang who had defeated Lei Zhanxian that had helped him secure a good ranking. Although Jiang Wuxia might have gone to Seven Stars Valley with other motives. They did have a friendship, but it wasn't that deep. Unlike Cheng Gengsheng, he could ask for anything he wanted. In the end, it all depended on what he could offer in exchange. After serious consideration, Jiang Wang looked up and asked, what would Jiang Wuxia ask for? When it came to understanding Jiang Wuxia, he definitely wasn't as familiar as Cheng Gengsheng. He had to know what Jiang Wuxia wanted and what conditions would be needed to move her. Going to the islands near the sea and helping out at the sea festival at the ocean fishing tower wasn't an easy task. Even with Jiang Wuxia's status, it wouldn't be easy. Oh, you. Cheng Gengsheng looked at him and said. 14, who had always been a man of few words, burst out laughing. His laughter squeezed out of his mask and seemed a bit out of place in this tea house. Jiang Wang frowned. Cheng Gengsheng, however, was serious. As the prince of the most powerful country in the world, De Qi is one of the most promising candidates for the throne. One day, he might hold the greatest power in the modern world. Only a few people in the modern world can stand shoulder to shoulder with him. What does he lack? What can you use to move him? Your treasures, secret arts, and tools are useless in front of his monstrous wealth. What he wants is to turn the impossible into the inevitable. He wants to go from being a contender for the throne to sitting on the throne. And who are you? You're the number one in the Soaring Dragon realm who defeated Wang Yiwu in the same realm. You're the De Qi Tianjiao who defeated Lei Zhanxian in one prefecture. Everyone knows that you have a promising future. As long as you don't die, the future that everyone hopes for Wang Yiwu will most likely belong to you. You have a chance to become a peerless powerhouse. You have a chance to help him. For this possibility, you should be willing to pay a lot. After Cheng Gongsheng suggested that he take advantage of the situation, Jiang Wang actually had a plan in mind. Not only Jiang Wuxia, but also the princes and princesses who could speak on behalf of Qi to some extent, he would have to pay a certain price. Without friendship, they could only talk about benefits. Even if they did have friendship, the huge interest surrounding these princes and princesses wouldn't allow them to consider problems based on friendship. And when it came to giving, the most direct and powerful thing was to help them fight for the throne. However, Jiang Wang had his own concerns. He looked at Cheng Gongsheng and said, "If I help Jiang Wuxia fight for the throne, will it affect you?" Cheng Gongsheng smiled and shook his head. "No matter who you help, it won't affect me, because the Zhenggenjia will never participate in the fight for the throne. Even if you and I are as close as brothers, others won't force your choice on me." The premise of his words was that no matter what happened after Jiang Wang participated in the fight for the throne in the Qi royal family, he wouldn't drag Cheng Gongsheng down. And with the relationship between Jiang Wang and Cheng Gongsheng, this was easy to do. For example, if Jiang Wang encountered some tricks from other princes and princesses, he would use his own name to ask Cheng Gongsheng to save him. As long as Cheng Gongsheng saved him, he would be dragged down. But Cheng Gongsheng knew very well what kind of person Jiang Wang was and knew that he had his limits. That was why he could say frankly that he wouldn't be affected. "I know," Jiang Wang said and stood up. It was true that the day of the sea sacrifice was still far away, but the sooner the better, especially when he wasn't sure if these preparations would be useful. The more he knew about the sea fishing tower, the more difficult it was for him to understand. Brother Wang left immediately after the discussion. He didn't even go back to the Mount Xia villa to rest. Watching the door close, Cheng Gongsheng sighed. He has too much responsibility for himself. He patted his head with his hand. But that's why he is Jiang Wang, isn't it? He turned to 14. "Why aren't you saying anything?" 14 walked over slowly and took his hand away. "Don't pat your head. You'll lose your hair." She was familiar with Jiang Wang and had a good relationship with him, but she only had eyes for Cheng Gongsheng. She was the little girl who hid herself in the armor and wanted to protect Cheng Gongsheng. Cheng Gongsheng was the first person she saw and thought of. Jiang Wuxia was the master of the heart-nourishing palace, but he didn't stay there often. Perhaps he felt that the Qi palace was too oppressive or inconvenient. In short, the place he stayed most often was the Warm Jade Pavilion. It was the Warm Jade Pavilion that Su Xiangqian always went to. It was said that it could stimulate one's inspiration and was very poetic. Last year, Jiang Wang went to all 4 famous brothels to practice the 8 tones flame sparrow. He tasted the 8 tones tea and was familiar with this place. The 4 famous brothels were able to become the only brothels in Linzi City. They all had their own backers. In fact, the backer of the Warm Jade Pavilion was Jiang Wuxia. The titular owner of the Waterside Pavilion, Qin Ran, was Jiang Wuxia's woman. She was famous for her beauty. Yes, one of them. It wasn't good for a prince to run a brothel, so Jiang Wuxia basically hid behind the scenes. Ordinary people didn't know about this, but it was no secret to people like Cheng Gongsheng. After leaving the Tranquil Heart Cottage, Jiang Wang went straight to the Warm Jade Pavilion. Saying that he was familiar with the place made him sound like he was the head of a brothel. It didn't suit his style, but in fact, he was very familiar with the place. Of course, it was all Su Xiangqian's fault. Not long after he entered, he was recognized by a beautiful woman. "Oh, Prince Jiang, you haven't been here for a long time. You're still so elegant and outstanding." Jiang Wang didn't have much of an impression of her, but she seemed to be in charge of the warm jade pavilion. Her voice was soft and sweet. "May I know who you want to see today?" The few times he came here, it was for the 8-tone tea. Every time, it was either Su Xiangqian who invited his friends, or Cheng Gengsheng who made a big fuss. Jiang Wang was used to drinking tea and studying Taoist techniques in a low-key way. He didn't think that he would be noticed by this beautiful woman, and that she would be able to recognize him after so long. He had to admit that the Warm Jade Pavilion was one of the 4 famous pavilions. It was brilliant everywhere. "Oh," Jiang Wang replied casually. "I'm looking for Miss Qin." The middle-aged woman's expression changed. "Young master, please don't joke around." Jiang Wang knew there was a misunderstanding and hurriedly said, No, I'm looking for Miss Qin because I want to see her friend." Qin Ran's friend was naturally Jiang Wuxia. As the person in charge of the Warm Jade Pavilion, the middle-aged woman recognized Jiang Wang and understood Jiang Wang's importance. After all, he was the Tianjiao of the Qi. He had a title and a position. He was already dazzling now and had a promising future. Otherwise, if an ordinary person had said what Jiang Wang said just now, she would have called people to beat them to death. "I wonder if that young master is free." The beautiful woman bowed gently like a willow branch in the wind, soft and gentle. "May I ask?" "Sorry to trouble you." Jiang Wang sensibly took out a Tao origin stone and handed it over. Gold and silver would be hard to move in the Warm Jade Pavilion. "I didn't do anything serious. You don't have to pay." The beautiful woman flipped her hand and gently pressed his hand back. Her slender white fingers seemed to trace the back of his hand. She glanced at him flirtatiously. "Unless you want something to happen between us." Chapter 796. Jiang Wang couldn't take this and didn't know how to reply. Seeing that De Qi, who was suppressing Wang Yiwu, was stunned by her words, the beautiful woman covered her mouth and laughed. Her eyebrows were full of spring, but as the head of the entertainment hall, she knew best what it meant to stop at a certain point and let the lingering charm linger. She didn't say anything more. She glanced at Jiang Wang again and walked away, swaying her hips. In a trance, a round and perky peach swayed left and right in his eyes, attracting his gaze and refusing to relax. Then, with a sudden turn, she disappeared at the end of the corridor. It made him feel lost. Perhaps there was a reason why Su Xiangqian always came here to collect literature. But Jiang Wang killed people like a butcher dismembering a cow. When it came to flirting, it was easier to take off clothes. He turned a blind eye to everything in front of him and only thought, if a battle broke out in such an environment, how to gain an advantage in the shortest time possible. 2 human sword forms and a flame sparrow holding flowers flashed through his mind before the beautiful woman swayed her body and walked back into his line of sight. Oh, this sword was heading towards Jiang Wang, subconsciously glanced at the beautiful woman's white neck and hurriedly dispersed the sword intent. Sin, he apologized in his heart. The beautiful woman naturally noticed where Jiang Wang's gaze stopped, but she misunderstood. With a smile in her eyes, she pulled at her collar, but it didn't seem to be very good. Instead, it revealed more of her swan-like neck. Her curves were alluring, and the white scenery extended into her collar, but her expression was dignified. "Prince Jiang, my young master invites you." "Thank you for your trouble," Jiang Wang said. "This way, please." The beautiful woman turned around and led the way. Her curves were exaggerated, as if she had a natural ability to hook one's line of sight, pulling one's line of sight along with the ups and downs of the mountains. Her chi was not obvious, so he didn't know how strong she was. Inner palace? Outer palace? What was the cultivation level of the owner of the waterside pavilion, Miss Qin Ran? As the palace master of the Heart Cultivation Palace, Jiang Wuxia was qualified to fight for the dragon throne, so the power in her hands was definitely not weak. Jiang Wang followed behind him, weighing the pros and cons silently. The beautiful woman obviously didn't know what it meant to throw flirtatious glances at a blind man, because Jiang Wang's eyesight was very good. His eyes were clean, bright, and full of vigor. Moreover, he was very good at judging beauties. He actually knew how to look at the neck. That's right, he was friends with Su Xiangxian, a Confucian scholar who borrowed money to go to a brothel. How could he not know anything about romance? Those occasional clumsiness should be a deliberate show of interest. Young people these days were very emotional. Prince Jiang. She walked in front of him, trying to show off her charm as much as she could. She said casually, strangers the first time, but friends the second time. We're already familiar with each other. She said the word through very softly and tactfully, as if she was whispering in his ear. Then he continued, next time you come to the waterside pavilion, you could talk to me directly. If I am not outside keeping watch, you can send someone to ask. Just say you're looking for Town Yang. No matter what I'm busy with, I'll come to see you. Peach Lady, Jiang Wang searched for this name in his heart. He wanted to know which sect or expert in qi she was close to, but he couldn't find anything. On the surface, he said, "Thank you for your hospitality. Jiang Wang is really grateful." In his heart, he was thinking that since Town Yang's attitude was so warm, it meant that Jiang Wuxia was giving her face. It seemed like the matter of the islands near the sea could be discussed. The warm jade waterside pavilion was built on a small lake. This lake wasn't open to the public, and it was said that it used the water from the Z River. The pavilion faced the water and rippled, giving it a unique feeling. He followed Town Yang around a wooden staircase and a few water corridors before finally arriving at a private pavilion. The heavy doors were tightly shut, and two white-faced, beardless guards stood casually in front of the door, one on each side. When they saw Town Yang, they nodded their heads. If it was a normal expert, they wouldn't be so casual about guarding the heart-nourishing palace head. Jiang Wang thought about it as he followed Town Yang into the inner room. They walked through the beautiful scenery, and after passing through two heavy doors, the view in front of them suddenly opened up. 3 water corridors connected to a pavilion, evenly splitting the water. The pavilion was in the middle of the water. Jiang Wuxia, who had exquisite features, was lazily leaning on a soft couch. On each side, there were 2 beautiful maids who were massaging his legs. Hearing the noise, he raised his head and looked over. He first said to Town Yang, "Thank you for your trouble." Then he waved his hand intimately. "Jiang Qingyang, come over here." He was good friends with Jiang Wang, so he didn't care about the formalities. Town Yang stopped at the water corridor and only said to Jiang Wang, "Young master, take care." Her voice was really soft. From the 2 experts at the door and Jiang Wuxia's attitude, Town Yang's identity wasn't simple. It probably wasn't something that a brothel keeper in charge of welcoming guests could explain. Jiang Wang was really polite. "Thank you." Then, he calmly walked towards the pavilion. In 7-Star Valley, he didn't lower himself to Jiang Wuxia. Although he had a favor to ask of him, he didn't lower himself. He wanted to ask Jiang Wuxia for help, but it wasn't a request, but an exchange. He wanted to exchange what he could give for Jiang Wuxia's current investment. This was an equal trade based on mutual respect. Whether it worked or not, it would depend on how Jiang Wuxia weighed the pros and cons. On Jiang Wang's side, at most, he would say please. He would also accept this favor. He walked to the pavilion and sat down on the big chair that the beautiful maids brought over, saying, "Your Highness is so elegant." From this big chair, it could be seen that Jiang Wuxia didn't disrespect Jiang Wang, because he could let Jiang Wang stand or give Jiang Wang an embroidered stool. This big chair was square, made of wood, and bright. It was worthy of a distinguished guest. At this time, he was leaning on the soft couch. It wasn't that he wasn't dignified, but more like he was close to nature. Jiang Wuxia gently took a bite of a blue fruit that she did not know the name of and said to the slender maid on her left, "Are you willing to treat this heavenly son of qi to a fruit?" The maid patted him reproachfully and said, "Your Highness." Jiang Wuxia smiled and turned to Jiang Wang, saying in a gentle voice, "Please forgive me, Qingyang man. They are my beloved. I can't order them to entertain anyone. You can taste the wind on the river." There was a hint of affection in his words. It had to be said that this slightly wicked but not lascivious smile made him more charming. Not many women could resist. It could be seen from the mesmerized look in the two maids' eyes. Jiang Wang wasn't surprised by Jiang Wuxia's attitude towards his maids. The palace master of Mental Cultivation Palace was famous for being greedy. He smiled bitterly and said, Jiang Wang was born in a poor family. It's best to drink alone. I'm not used to being entertained. He casually glanced at the empty corridor, which seemed to only have the wind on the river. He looked away and asked directly, Is it convenient for you to talk? He didn't have the time or the mood to chat with Jiang Wuxia. With Jiang Wuxia's status, it was impossible for him to be as casual and carefree as he appeared. Going straight to the point was a form of respect for each other. Jiang Wuxia wiped his mouth with a handkerchief and sat up straight. He looked at Jiang Wang and said, Everyone here is close to me. You can say whatever you want. Jiang Wang said, She was a disciple of the fishing sea tower. Her master was Granny Bijou, an elder of the fishing sea tower. As for how important she is, she's my good friend. The reason why she is in this situation today is because she saved me. Hai Zoming? Jiang Wuxia raised her eyebrows and asked. There was no need to say anything else. Just this name alone showed that he knew something about Jiang Wang killing Hai Zoming and had already guessed what had happened. Jiang Wang nodded and confirmed Jiang Wuxia's thoughts. There are 24 elders in the entire fishing sea tower. People come and go, but their positions don't change. Hai Zoming's strength is at the bottom, but he is still the face of the fishing sea tower. Zhu Biqiong offended her superiors and betrayed them. In any faction, she would be sentenced to death. Moreover, her own master has already given up on her. Jiang Wuxia tried to analyze the situation without any emotion. I'm sure Cheng Gengsheng has already told you how important the sea sacrifice is. I know how difficult this matter is. There aren't many people in the entire Linzi who have the ability to participate. Jiang Wang flattered. Otherwise, I wouldn't have come to you. I really want to help you, Jiang Qingyang. I really want to be friends with you, Jiang Wuxia said sincerely. Jiang Wuxia said sincerely, but there are too many people in the heart-nourishing palace who depend on me for their livelihood. Their lives are all tied to me. I have a heavy burden on my shoulders, and every step I take is difficult. I have to be careful about any decision I make. I can completely understand. Jiang Wang sighed in his heart. He once again realized how difficult it was to go to the fishing sea tower to save someone. He said frankly, If your highness can help me with this matter, I will pay the appropriate price. Moreover, I will be eternally grateful to your highness. If you don't want to help me, I can understand and have no complaints. Jiang Wuxia thought for a while and finally made up his mind. He looked straight into Jiang Wang's eyes. I can help you, but I also need you to help me. Help me wholeheartedly. There's no free lunch in this world. I shamelessly came to ask for your help, so I naturally have the corresponding awareness. Jiang Wang said seriously, As long as you help me save Zhu Biqiong, I promise that I will always stand by your side in the battle for the throne of Deqi. I will help you ascend to the royal court. He remembered Cheng Gengsheng's advice and directly brought up the topic that would move Jiang Wuxia the most. But Jiang Wuxia shook his head. I think very highly of you. For this, I am willing to bet everything I have overseas. What I want is not a certain time, a certain moment, a certain matter. He said seriously, Jiang Qing, I want your loyalty. Loyalty? Jiang Wang asked. I mean that even if Cheng Gengsheng stands in front of us, you have to stand by my side. Of course, I respect you very much and won't let that happen. Your talent and character are extraordinary. You are the backbone I have been looking for. So I want your loyalty. Jiang Qing. Jiang Wuxia said emotionally. Correspondingly, there will be a place for you in the future Deqi that I will rule. You will be a duke or a marquis. Perhaps it will be hereditary. His expression was so impassioned that one could completely believe his description. The scene of ascending to the supremacy stage and ruling over the world seemed to be just within reach of him. His promise was also very practical, and his eyes were very serious. It was hard to doubt his sincerity. But Jiang Wang just stood up and nodded slightly. Sorry to disturb you. He turned and left. It was not that he was not prepared to pay a price when he came to find Jiang Wuxia. This was a deal to begin with. He had his conditions and his bottom line. If he could talk, he would talk. He even tried his best to talk. But once he stepped on the line, there was nothing to hesitate about. Jiang Wuxia's attitude was very clear. His attitude was also very clear. He needed Jiang Wuxia's help and was willing to help Jiang Wuxia fight for the dragon. But it was impossible for him to be bound to Jiang Wuxia for the rest of his life. "Brother Qingyang," Jiang Wuxia said behind him, "the deal is off, but we are friends. You can always remember that the heart-nourishing palace is always willing to give you conditions." Jiang Wang turned and saluted. "Your Highness, don't worry. Although we have no gratitude or grudges, the scenery is very beautiful." The scenery here was beautiful, and today's visit had ended the good mood. "Goodbye." He straightened his back and left without hesitation. Soon, he disappeared at the end of the corridor. From beginning to end, his expression was calm. There was indeed no resentment, and he was not moved at all by the promises of the dukes and marquises. "It seems that you don't understand him." A pleasant voice came from another water corridor. A woman in a snow-white Taoist robe appeared in his sight. Or rather, she had been there from beginning to end. She had just deceived his vision. The Taoist robe was wide, but it could not hide her figure. She spoke casually, but her back was still to the pavilion. She only looked at the calm water. "Little C," Jiang Wuxia got up and walked behind the woman. He gently hugged her soft waist and smiled. "Today, I finally met Jiang Qingyang. What do you think? What do you think of my taste?" The owner of the Jade Pavilion, Qin Ran, was called Little C. Not many people knew this nickname. Jiang Wuxia was the only one who had this nickname. I put the 5 princes and princesses of the Qi royal family on the character cards at the same time. When the time comes, I will see who is more popular. It will be a character creation experiment. Chapter 798. The man from Qingyang Town performed impeccably in both Yangdi and Linzi. After defeating Wang Yiwu in the same realm, there's no need to doubt his talent. Qin Ran was a little amused. "Your taste is almost the same as most people in Linzi." From the beginning to the end, in front of Jiang Wang, Jiang Wuxia had never called him Gu. He was only willing to call him I. Their posture was very intimate, but when it came to conditions, he would never be soft-hearted. He gently buried his chin in the woman's soft and white neck, sniffed greedily for a while, and then said, "You said I don't understand him, but I won't admit it." A slender, jade-like finger pressed against his lips, pushing back his hot breath that was constantly moving forward. Qin Lian chuckled. "He's gone, and you still won't admit it. Jiang Qingyang values friendship and righteousness. This is his strength, and also the reason why I like him." No matter how Qin Ran pushed, Jiang Wuxia just held her waist and didn't let go. In this world, both good and bad people will like good people. Even if they are in the gutter, they yearn for the sunshine. No matter how dark, despicable, and mercenary they are, they also enjoy warmth and morality, although they themselves are not willing to pay. So I admire Jiang Qingyang. Today, he risked his life at the Fishing Sea Tower for Zhu Biqiu. Previously, he suppressed Wang Yiwu for Cheng Gengsheng. In the future, he will also kill for me. So I will choose him. I will choose him unswervingly. So the conditions don't allow it. Qin Ran asked doubtfully. Jiang Wuxia sucked her finger, but this action didn't affect him. He said with a smile, "I'm not a good person." Since he values his friends so much and values his promises so much, why don't I want more? "What are you doing?" Qin Ran quickly pulled her finger out, blushed, and pushed Jiang Wuxia away. "Don't you feel ashamed?" Jiang Wuxia gently pulled her into his arms again. Their eyes met. This woman's beauty was a kind of dignified and magnanimous beauty. She was so beautiful that she had an imposing aura. She was so beautiful that people were convinced. This man's beauty was feminine and charming. When he looked up and pursed his lips, people could hear their own heartbeat. In terms of appearance alone, they were a match made in heaven. Jiang Wuxia wrapped his arms around her waist and looked for those red lips. Love between a man and a woman is a matter of course. You and I are sincere. There is nothing to be ashamed of. You should really make the heavens ashamed. Qin Ran raised a hand and gently blocked his chest, preventing him from coming closer. She tried to pull the topic back on track. Although a gentleman can be deceived, I think Jiang Qingyang is not a pedantic person. Of course. Jiang Wuxia chuckled. It was hard to tell whether she was laughing at the woman's weak resistance or at Jiang Wang's pointless turning around. Later, I'll take the initiative to look for him and lower the time limit on my loyalty. If we give him hope after disappointment, we will be able to get better terms. Aren't you afraid that he'll find another way? Cheng Gengsheng is a smart man, a very smart man. Jiang Qingyang came to find me after meeting with Cheng Gengsheng. This means that I'm the best choice. Jiang Wuxia's voice was very confident. And the matter of the fishing sea tower is not something that anyone could take on. If I didn't think so highly of him, compared to the difficulty of this matter, Jiang Wang might not be worth it. In the whole of Linzi, who can help him as much as I can? He'll know that I'm not harsh on him after a few more setbacks. Looking at his confident and handsome face, Qin Ran couldn't help but let go of his hand and let him pull her closer to his lips. Under the scorching hot breath, she whispered in a daze, "Wuxia, you want too much." Her voice was drowned in a long and deep kiss. She didn't know if she was heard. The wind on the river, thinking of Wuxia. Jiang Wuxia's method of loosening the reins only to grasp them better was not subtle. In other words, she was certain that Jiang Wang had no better choice. Therefore, Jiang Wang said that the two of them had no gratitude or resentment. From the perspective of a transaction, Jiang Wuxia considered the maximum benefits. Friendship and whatnot. Naturally, there was no way to start. But from another perspective, Jiang Wuxia's confidence also proved the difficulty of saving Zhu Biqiang. Otherwise, why would he ask for Jiang Wang's loyalty the moment he opened his mouth? If Jiang Wuxia didn't succeed, Jiang Wang's status in Qi might not be lower than his in Qi in the future. Jiang Wang himself didn't have a deep understanding because he had only been famous in Qi for a short time. Although he was recruited and sought after defeating Wang Yiwu and Lei Zhanxian, he left the country very quickly and didn't feel much. Cheng Gengsheng and Jiang Wuxia were very sure of Jiang Wang's future value. Of course, Jiang Wuxia wasn't asking for too much. If he wanted to save the sacrifice of the fishing sea tower, he would be openly going against the fishing sea tower. This was almost equivalent to cutting himself off from the offshore islands. It was equivalent to exchanging the future interests of the heart-nourishing palace in the offshore islands for Jiang Wang's future. Whether it was worth it or not depended on the person. At least, Jiang Wuxia thought it was worth it. But Jiang Wang didn't want to. For Jiang Wang, Jiang Wuxia was one of the choices and also the most likely choice. He was even less familiar with the other palace masters in Qi. Jiang Wuxia's attitude was very revealing. He probably couldn't get better terms from the others. But he still went. He was the kind of person who wanted to move forward even when he saw the results. It wasn't his style to give up without trying. Huaying Palace occupied a large area and was magnificent. Such a magnificent palace seemed to be a natural indication of the owner's ambition. Unlike Jiang Wuxia, who lived in the warm jade pavilion all year round, Jiang Wuyo usually lived in Huaying Palace. When Jiang Wang came to visit, Jiang Wuyo was practicing martial arts. Perhaps it was because Jiang Wang had made some people remember him in Linzi, but Jiang Wang had indeed made them remember him. The guard on duty didn't even announce his arrival and directly brought him into the palace. The guard didn't stop until they were outside the school grounds. Qingyang man, Her Highness is practicing martial arts. It will be 6 hours soon, and she should take a break. Please wait a moment. Jiang Wuxia was enjoying herself, but Jiang Wuyo, as her elder sister, felt like she was going through hardships. The entire Huaying Palace, without the extravagance of the Qi Palace, was like a huge military camp. Concise, strict, austere. The maids and guards here were all well-trained and disciplined. Along the way, they were all focused on their own tasks and didn't look sideways. When the guard finished speaking, he didn't care if Jiang Wang heard him clearly and directly turned to leave. Of course, Jiang Wang didn't have time to pay attention to the guard. At this moment, his line of sight was completely attracted by the graceful figure on the drill ground. Huaying Palace Master Jiang Wuyo was practicing her halberd in the palace and completely forgot about herself. Her halberd stirred up the wind and thunder, causing the air to rumble. But it didn't spread far, showing her almost perfect control. Her martial attire outlined her fit and beautiful figure very clearly. As she moved, there was a breathtaking beauty. This kind of beauty couldn't be found in ordinary women. Chapter 799. This drill ground was rugged and desolate. It was obvious that it had been used frequently. The murderous aura lingered all year round. On both sides of the drill ground were weapon racks. Sabers, spears, swords, halberds, and all kinds of weapons were available. Every weapon glowed with an extraordinary light. But anyone who came to this drill ground for the first time would be attracted by Jiang Wuyo. Cold light flashed amidst the rumbling. The valiant Jiang Wuyo suddenly dashed left, then right. The sky piercer was like a brush in her hand, allowing her to right the sky. She waved her brush in the boundless world. That boundless and unrestrained feeling was the perfect combination of strength and beauty. At some point, the rumbling stopped. Jiang Wuyo waved her hand, turned around, and strode outside. The sky piercer flipped several times in the air, stirring up wind and thunder, before falling into the hands of an old woman. Her aura suddenly disappeared. However, Jiang Wang had no idea where this old woman came from or how she came to be here. Jiang Wang. Jiang Wuyo greeted him openly. What brings you to my Huaying Palace? Her long hair was tied into a simple ponytail at the back of her head. Large beads of sweat flowed down her healthy, wheat-colored skin. A pair of perfectly round and powerful thighs poked straight into the ground. Just by standing there, she exuded a natural heroic aura that many men couldn't compare to. Jiang Wang cupped his hands in greeting and said seriously, "One doesn't visit a temple without a cause. Jiang Wang is shameless enough to visit. I have something to ask of you." A maid waiting at the drill ground brought over a soft silk cloth. Jiang Wuyo took it, wiped his face, and casually tossed it back onto the tray. "I'm just trying to ask." Compared to the time of the restaurant, Jiang Wuyo was clearly more casual this time. Perhaps it was because he was in his own palace, or perhaps it was because he had just finished cultivating and was relaxed. Since the other party was so straightforward, Jiang Wang also said directly, "I want to save someone from the sea fishing tower's sea sacrifice. But I can't do it by myself, so I need your highness' help." Jiang Wuyo wasn't surprised by the name of the ocean fishing tower. He glanced at Jiang Wang and suddenly asked, "You've already opened up a second prefecture. Have you picked up any more supernatural powers?" After she asked, she smiled again. This consort was just asking casually. If you don't want to answer, then there's no need to say it clearly. "It's all right," Jiang Wang said honestly. "I've already opened 2 manors and obtained 2 supernatural powers. But as for the second divine ability, forgive me for not being able to tell you." Jiang Wuyo nodded and changed the topic. "The fishing sea tower is very powerful, and it involves the sea sacrifice. This matter is indeed difficult. I know very well how difficult this matter is. There aren't many people in the entire Linzi who have the ability to participate." Jiang Wang repeated the words he had used on Jiang Wuxia. "Otherwise, I wouldn't have come to. This consort will help you." Jiang Wang didn't know how to react when he was interrupted. Jiang Wuyo repeated, "I'll help you with the fishing sea tower." "Thank you very much." Jiang Wuyo was too straightforward. Jiang Wang was a little hesitant. He hadn't even mentioned any conditions yet. "I don't know what your highness needs." Jiang Wuyo shook her head and said straightforwardly, "I'll tell you in advance that I don't have absolute confidence in this matter, so I don't need your loyalty. I can only promise that I'll do my best to help you in this matter. What I mean by doing my best is to mobilize all the resources and connections of Huaying Palace to help you achieve your goal. No matter who you want to save, no matter how difficult this matter is. So similarly, you have to do your best to help me with one thing in the future. It doesn't have to be successful, but you have to use all your strength to accomplish everything you can. Deal?" The decisiveness of the third princess of the Qi completely exceeded Jiang Wang's expectations. Opposing the fishing sea tower in the coastal islands and trying to effect the sea sacrifice of the coastal islands, how big of a deal was that? But she made a decision in a few words. From the beginning to the end, she just greeted Jiang Wang, glanced at him, asked him a few questions, and then directly placed her bet. There was no discussion at all. She was so casual that it was as if she happened to pass by a gambling den and casually placed a bet. Moreover, her conditions were so relaxed that she actually just exchanged one thing for another. She was far more generous than Jiang Wuxia, who Jiang Wang was very optimistic about. Those who had seen Jiang Wuyo with their own eyes could understand why she was qualified to compete for the position of the Qi's heir. Her breadth of mind and boldness was not inferior to any man in the world. Since she was giving him face, Jiang Wang had no reason to refuse. But he still added in a very unpleasant way, "If we were in Qi's territory, we couldn't be enemies with Cheng Gongsheng." Jiang Wuyo glanced at him again and smiled. That little fatty shouldn't have the chance to become my enemy. He didn't know if the sentence was a compliment or an insult to Cheng Gongsheng. Jiang Wang looked solemn and bowed deeply. In that case, Jiang Wang agrees. Jiang Wuyo smiled and said, "Straightforward. My son of the Qi should be like this." Jiang Wang took the initiative to ask, "Your Highness, do you need anything?" "No need for a blood contract. No need for an oath. I trust the promises of the men of Qingyang Town." Jiang Wuyo shook her head, and her ponytail drew a neat arc in the air. She turned around and walked back to the drill ground. "Go back, rest up, and prepare well. Inform me before you go out to sea." She was too decisive and straightforward. It was as if she didn't take it seriously at all, but it was obviously such a big thing. Jiang Wang cupped his hands again and left with his sword in hand. His footsteps were much more relaxed. If it was about rescuing Zhu Biqiong, it was completely impossible before. But after getting Jiang Wuyo's promise and support, there was a 10% chance of success. The Qi's influence in the eastern region was unshakable. Even if the offshore islands were the home ground of the fishing sea tower, they couldn't completely ignore the Qi's voice. Why did the fishing sea tower immediately react so fiercely when the leader of the night watchmen went out to sea? This showed that the fishing sea tower was vigilant against Qi, and Jiang Wuyo happened to be the person who could borrow part of Qi's influence. Her support was crucial to the success of Jiang Wang's trip. After Jiang Wang left, Jiang Wuyo practiced another round of swordsmanship. Her swordsmanship was also brilliant and had her own unique essence, qi, and spirit. If Jiang Wang was present, he would also cheer loudly. After finishing her swordsmanship practice, she opened her arms and let the maid come up to take off her martial arts uniform and put on loose casual clothes for her. The old woman who put away the halberd for her silently appeared again. "There's something I don't understand." After changing into her casual clothes, Jiang Wuyo walked out with her long legs. "Is it related to the man in Qingyang Town?" The old woman didn't spend much effort and walked casually behind her. This person's talent is naturally Tianjiao's choice, but he hasn't become a god and can only live for 200 years. Before that, he still has a long way to go. At this moment, he's not worth the price you just offered. She paused and emphasized, "Far from it," Jiang Wuyo said as she walked. "If you make a deal with someone like Jiang Wang, he won't let you suffer a loss. If you make friends with him, he won't let you suffer a loss even if he has to risk his life. That's the difference." The old woman still couldn't understand. With his current strength, even if he has 2 mansions and supernatural powers, even if he has to risk his life, what could he do? Huaying Palace doesn't lack people who risk their lives. Jiang Wuyo sighed. "Nanny, you're just afraid that I'll suffer a loss." The old woman said faintly, "You've wasted so many resources, just like that, Lu." "All right, Nanny, I'll tell you the truth." Jiang Wuyo interrupted the old woman's nagging and said helplessly, "Actually, in the past, Big Brother commented on Jiang Wang, saying that his Tao heart is one and his future is limitless. That's why I'm so sure of his future." Chapter 800. As soon as Jiang Wuyo said this old woman with unfathomable strength immediately straightened her body and looked around. Her aura surged, and she was very vigilant. Because the elder brother that Jiang Wuyo referred to was not the current crown prince, Tranquil Palace Lord Jiang Wuhua. It was the dethroned crown prince Jiang Wuyong, who was imprisoned in the Greenstone Palace. The untouchable pain in the heart of the current Qi emperor. Back then, it directly led to the destruction of the Withered Yard and the death of Chongqing Futu. It indirectly led to the birth of the Xiong Tuesday. Not long ago, the treasure-gathering Chamber of Commerce, which had been famous for a time, was destroyed by the aftermath of many years later. The old woman couldn't help but be nervous. After repeatedly observing the environment, she said to Jiang Wuyo, "It's only right for you to visit that person in your free time. It's normal for human relations." But I shouldn't have taken his words to heart. The old woman was anxious and scared. I shouldn't talk to the palace lord like this. But the past events are still vivid in my mind. Even with my old bones, I am still shocked when I think about it. How can you not be more cautious? Jiang Wuyo gently stroked her back to comfort her. His voice was gentle. "Nanny, you've watched me grow up. You can say whatever you want. There's no need to block me." However, she explained, "I don't care about other irrelevant things. But first, Jiang Wang has nothing to do with elder brother. Second, elder brother just casually commented on Jiang Wang when I mentioned him. I've always been optimistic about Jiang Wang's future. Elder brother just made me more certain. Since I've already thought about it, and Jiang Wang happened to come looking for trouble, what's there to hesitate about?" The old woman's deep wrinkles still hid uneasiness. "I'm just worried. You're not the only one who's worried." Jiang Wuyo comforted her. "I've thought about everything elder brother said to me with Mr. Emo after I came back. There shouldn't be any problems. Imperial Father's prestige has been increasing in recent years. Even someone like elder brother doesn't have much room to resist. He had been imprisoned for so many years, but he hadn't done anything. The Greenstone Palace is covered with cobwebs and dust. Looks like he's resigned to his fate." The old woman was still hesitant. "Even so, the Withered Yard is gone, and Chongqing Buddha too is dead. The son of Buddha too is obviously hostile to him. At this moment, the person imprisoned in the Greenstone Palace is all alone, and his heart is like dead ashes." Jiang Wuyo said, "I thought that the matter with Su Fong would cause a stir, but in reality, eldest brother just silently endured it. I specifically clicked on Chung Gong Sheng, but there was no response. It can be seen that the Bluestone Palace is a pool of stagnant water. Since the palace lord has thought things through, this old woman won't worry unnecessarily." The old woman bowed and stood in place. Jiang Wuyo continued to walk forward. She walked forward alone. She left the training grounds and stepped onto the flower path. That eternally calm face seemed to appear before his eyes once more. "Big brother," she murmured, "I'm so wary of you, yet I trust you so much. North of the city, Patrol Manor of the capital city." On the third day after returning to Linzi, Jiang Wang finally found time to come here to report. When he left the Qi region, he was still on a mission to hunt down the Gateless Hell. Because he helped Yulong catch up with King Qingguang, he was promoted to a 4th-grade blue medal arrester. The Gateless Hell's 7 kings of hell surrounded and killed Zhao Xian in the downtown area, causing a sensation in the eastern region. However, they also paid a terrible price. Among the 7 kings of hell, King Songdi, King Bianxing, King Taishan, King Dushi, and King Pingdang all died in the Qi region. Only King Qingguang and the Corner King escaped. Since the Gateless Hell wasn't completely cleaned up, it was reasonable for the blue medal of Qi region to continue the hunt. Therefore, it was very reasonable for Jiang Wang to leave the country. Not only that, when he returned to Linzi, he could also get a certain amount of allowance. Because he didn't get any results, he could only get the minimum allowance that matched the time. However, he still got dozens of Dao Yuan stones. It didn't mean that Jiang Wang couldn't leave the country after he became a man of Qingyang Town in the Qi region. However, it was inevitable that there would be an inspection of where he went and what he did. The inspection might not be strict, but it was troublesome. With a blue metal arrester's mission, he could avoid these troubles. His fourth-grade blue metal was made by Yulong. Of course, there were no problems with the procedures. The so-called report was just a formality. No one would catch him to hunt down the results of the gateless hell. Of course, the blue metal arrester Jiang Wang didn't get nothing. In the mission file, it was recorded that he found King Chu Jiang of the gateless hell in a place called Camel Peak Mountain in the central region. This was a fact that could be verified. Although Constable Jiang wasn't able to grasp King Chu Jiang's specific whereabouts due to his lack of strength, he was still able to track down a top-notch outer sect expert and discover the King of Hell who had no door to hell twice. He truly lived up to the name of Green Card. The arresters flattered him, but Jiang Wang didn't take them seriously. The wisdom of the world couldn't escape anywhere. The reason why he was so popular in the powerful patrol office of the capital was certainly not because he really had any outstanding ability to handle cases and convince these old foxes. It was because of the talent he showed and his friendly relationship with Cheng Gongsheng. He just came to the patrol office of the capital to report his work and get some allowance. One praised him for having the demeanor of a young arrester, and another praised him for being the future of Bea. The real future of Bea just happened to pass by. Brother Jiang. Zheng Xiangming's eyes were complicated. Last year, he was schemed against by Wen Lianmu and ran to follow and investigate Jiang Wang. Fortunately, Jiang Wang was cautious and let him go on the spot. Wen Lianmu's scheme didn't succeed. He went to the Defender General's office to seek justice, but fell into another trap. Thanks to Cheng Gongsheng's timely warning of Bea's Commandant Zheng Shi, he didn't become a prisoner. However, his pride had already been shattered. It wasn't just a slap in the face, it was Wang Yiwu who ruthlessly stepped on the ground a few times. On the other hand, Jiang Wang defeated Wang Yiwu in one fell swoop and became famous in Linzi. He should thank Jiang Wang and Cheng Gongsheng, but due to some indescribable mentality, he never took the initiative to visit. Wen Lianmu used awkward to describe his personality, and it could be said that it was accurate. In the end, it was Cheng Gongsheng who took the initiative to ask for a blue medal to end their relationship and not make things difficult for Zheng Shi. Afterwards, Zheng Shi mentioned Cheng Gongsheng many times in front of Zheng Xiangming. He was full of praise for Zheng Genjie. Whether it was facing Jiang Wang or Cheng Gongsheng, the usually arrogant Zheng Xiangming couldn't help but pale in comparison. After the incident with Wang Yiwu, he let go of some of his stubbornness. He simply left the army and returned to the capital city's patrol office to develop in the Yamen where he made the decisions. Now that he saw Jiang Wang, his feelings were complicated, but he still took the initiative to greet him. This could be considered an improvement. Jiang Wang broke away from the constables who were trying to curry favor with him and smiled in response. Brother Zheng, you're still as elegant as ever. I ate a lot of wind, but I didn't pick anything, Zheng Xiangming said self-deprecatingly. He then asked, Brother Jiang, did you come back to report on your work? Yes, Jiang Wang sighed. I went out for a walk, but I didn't find anything. The work of the patrol office is generally like this. If it's not a major case, there won't be any ups and downs. But for major cases, it's better not to encounter them. Zheng Xiangming sighed with emotion and said, Since Brother Jiang officially has a position in the patrol office, if there's anything you need me to help with in the future, don't hesitate to ask. As Zheng Shi's only son, he certainly had the right to say such words. But if it was in the past, he definitely wouldn't rely on Zheng Shi. Perhaps this was a kind of growth. But it was unknown whether or not he had any regrets in the depths of his heart. Chapter 801. There is indeed one thing. Jiang Wang said, I recently intended to go to the offshore islands and wanted to pick up a mission at the inspection office. However, after looking for a long time, I didn't find a suitable one. I don't know if I didn't find the right place or if I don't have enough authority. He didn't need to reject Zheng Xiangming's goodwill. Friendship was reciprocal, and relationships were built through interaction. This time, he came to the inspection office of the capital city to report on his work because he wanted to pick up a mission here. As Hai Zoming's murderer, It was true that he was forced to fight back. The battlefield was outside the sphere of influence of Qi and Fishing Sea Tower, so Fishing Sea Tower couldn't find any reason to openly hunt him down. However, if he went to the offshore islands and showed off, he would inevitably encounter trouble. As a man from Qingyang Town, he was naturally protected by Qi. As a rank 4 blue metal arrester who was on duty, he was even more important. It could even be said that he represented Qi's face in a sense. Hai Zoming killed Jiang Wang in private and outside of Qi's territory. At that time, if Jiang Wang died, Qi would definitely find trouble with Fishing Sea Tower. Even if Hai Zoming was an elder with real power, it was impossible for him not to pay the price. It was just that Hai Zoming thought that the value of the red makeup mirror was greater than the price he had to pay to kill Jiang Wang. If he killed Jiang Wang silently, Qi wouldn't have to pay the price if he couldn't find the murderer. Whether it was right or wrong for Jiang Wang to kill Hai Zoming was already debated by Qi and Fishing Sea Tower. Fishing Sea Tower didn't have the upper hand no matter what. The result was that they didn't do anything. At this time, on the offshore islands, as long as Fishing Sea Tower didn't want to start a war, they wouldn't easily do anything to the Qi who was on duty. This was one of the reasons. The second advantage was that Jiang Wang had received a mission to the offshore islands, so he had to understand the offshore islands first. Depending on the level of the mission, the inspection office of the capital city would correspondingly open the information about the offshore islands to him. Combined with the information collected by Cheng Gongsheng, he could gain a better understanding of the offshore archipelago. It was killing two birds with one stone, and there were many benefits. Zheng Xiaoming thought for a moment and said, "There are actually a lot of things to do in the nearby islands. You said that you want a suitable mission. Why don't you tell me your requirements?" Jiang Wang didn't hide anything and said directly, "The level of the task can't be too low. It's better to be above the inner mansion, but not above the outer mansion." Has his strength improved to such an extent? Is he completely confident that he can handle cases at the level of the outer tower? Zheng Xiaoming took a deep look at Jiang Wang and said, "Wait here for a moment. I'll ask around for you." Jiang Wang could only try his best to increase the difficulty of the mission if he wanted to obtain more high-level information about the coastal island from the city's inspection office. However, he did not intend to seek his own death by going there. Missions that were of a higher level than the outer tower were not something he could participate in. As for putting up a task and only looking at the information but not carrying it out, it would not work either. The patrol office had its own reward and punishment system. For example, when Jiang Wang took up the task of chasing the gateless hell, it was because the Northern Yamen's commandant Zheng Shi had informed him, and the arrestor Yu Long had acquiesced. That was why he was allowed to leave the territory with a nominal mission. After all, no one would think that an arrestor of the inner mansion state could do anything to the gateless hell. Therefore, Jiang Wang had to complete the task he took in the offshore islands seriously this time. Keeping the blue metal on him was also beneficial for his future development in the Qi department. The patrol office in the capital was not very high level, but it was very big. The blue metal arresters who came in and out were all very good at keeping an eye on people, which made people feel inexplicably pressured. Jiang Wang waited in the hall for a while and unexpectedly met an acquaintance. Mr. Jiang, Lin Yuxi, who was wearing a cyan headscarf, saluted from afar. Judging from the internal structure of the blue metal arresters, Jiang Wang, who was wearing a rank 4 blue metal, was one level higher than her. She behaved very well and was very polite. It was unknown whether it was because of the rank 4 blue metal or because of Jiang Wang's warning last time. "Long time no see. How have you been?" "Thank you for your concern. It's been quite smooth." Jiang Wang nodded. "Arrestor Lin, you're still as elegant as ever." It had to be said that his greeting skills were very poor. No matter who he was talking to, he would always say, "You're still as elegant as ever." He did not have any prejudice against Lin Yuxi. In fact, he respected the blue metal arresters who dealt with transcendent being cases and maintained law and order. However, the premise was that Lin Yuxi did not endlessly probe and doubt him. It was interesting to say, Lin Yuxi was only in the Soaring Dragon realm, and should have been wearing a rank 6 blue metal. However, with his rich experience in handling cases and his ancestral methods of handling cases, he had solved many cases and was wearing a rank 5 blue medal. Meanwhile, Jiang Wang was in the intermansion realm and was wearing a rank 4 blue medal. He relied on his extraordinary strength, Zhang Shi's favor, and Yu Long's admiration. Both of them were considered to have leapfrog positions, so they should have a lot in common. However, because of Lin Yuxi's inexplicable suspicion of Jiang Wang, the relationship between the two was very tense. Perhaps it was not inexplicable. Perhaps Lin Yuxi was suspecting Zhang Yang. Every time she talked to Jiang Wang, she would always bring the topic to Zhang Yang. However, the case of Feng Xian and Zhang Yang's family extermination had already been closed, and Lin Yuxi was personally involved in the case. Zhang Yang was now working for Jiang Wuqi in the Longevity Palace, which was enough to prove that there was nothing wrong with him. Lin Yuxi still suspected Zhang Yang. Firstly, it was like slapping his own face. Secondly, it was inevitable that it would be futile. What was the point? Moreover, regarding Zhang Yang's case, Jiang Wang was really innocent. He and Zhang Yang had nothing to do with each other. They had only entered the Tianfu mystic realm once, and he had forgotten the process. Later, when he heard about the case of Feng Xian and Zhang Yang's family extermination, he was asked by Cheng Gung Sheng to pay a visit. After that, they did not contact each other. Even if there was something wrong with Zhang Yang, it could not be traced back to Jiang Wang. The only problem was that Jiang Wang was suspicious of Zhang Yang's true identity because of their fight on Yunwu Mountain. However, Jiang Wang chose to hide it at that time, so no one else knew of his suspicions. Or perhaps, Zhang Yang was just a cover. Lin Yuxi's real purpose was to investigate how he had sneaked into Linzi City in the early stages of the Doorless Hell, or to investigate who had ordered Su Fong to apologize outside the Bluestone Palace. During his time in Qi City, if there was anything that could not be exposed, it would be these two things. In the face of Jiang Wang's perfunctory politeness, Lin Yuxi chuckled and said, "Lord Jiang, you were separated from most of the blue metal teams, but you were able to dig out King Qingguang's whereabouts alone. That's what I call outstanding." When interacting with a smart person, especially a smart person who specialized in handling cases, it was inevitable that one would often feel uneasy about being seen through. "You flatter me." Jiang Wang decided not to make things difficult for himself. He said politely, "I still have things to do here." "Constable Lin, you see." Lin Yuxi seemed to not understand at all. "What are you busy with, Lord Jiang? I wonder if I can be of any help?" "You're too polite." Jiang Wang was somewhat helpless. "It's just a private matter. There's no need to trouble yourself." "Oh." Lin Yuxi nodded and said, "Actually, it's no trouble at all. We're all colleagues. Speaking of which, I would like to ask Lord Jiang for help." Hitting the snake with the stick, this movement technique was too proficient. Could it be that this was a necessary skill for the blue metal? Jiang Wang thought about some trivial matters and said with a laugh, "I just returned to Linzi not long ago. What I do to help? I'm afraid you'll be disappointed. It's not a very troublesome matter." Lin Yuxi smiled and said sincerely, "Lord Jiang hasn't worn the blue metal for long. First, you found King Qingguang of the Doorless Hell in Qi. After leaving Qi, you found traces of King Chujiang alone. It can be seen that Lord Jiang has studied the art of tracking. This lowly official has been immersed in the art of tracking for many years and has reached a bottleneck. It's difficult to advance, and it's unbearably painful. I wonder if Lord Jiang can spare some time to discuss this with this lowly official?" Jiang Wang looked at her intelligent eyes and had the misconception that she had already dug out all the secrets in his heart. He knew that it was too careless of him to use King Chujiang's appearance at Camel Mountain to deal with the task. He had already committed a mistake. It was also very likely that Lin Yuxi would be able to connect him to the Doorless Hell through this. The only thing worth rejoicing over was that he and King Chujiang really didn't have much interaction. They had only exchanged a few words, so it was impossible for him to find out anything. Moreover, he was able to openly reveal King Chujiang's whereabouts. From another point of view, this proved his magnanimity. However, no matter what, he still had to keep a distance from people like Lin Yuxi. However, she was so difficult to deal with that it would be difficult to achieve his goal by distancing himself politely. Thinking of this, Jiang Wang shook his head coldly and said arrogantly, "Your rank is too low and your cultivation is even lower. I don't have time to discuss this with you." Wu Qiuji had once used the golden needle weaving bone and the golden needle disease locking. They were all techniques from the adversity surmounting golden needle, each with their own unique uses. The golden needle cult had been around for more than 200 years. Wu Qiuji was the eldest direct disciple of the golden needle cult, and his master was the second-generation leader of the golden needle cult. The culprit this time was Wu Qiuji's martial uncle, the elder of the golden needle cult, Wu Yu. The culprit murdered the leader of the Golden Needle cult, Wu Yu, and stole the Golden Needle cult's secret manual. He had already escaped from Qi. The Golden Needle cult had only 2 outer building experts. One was seriously injured and dying, while the other had escaped. They no longer had the strength to pursue the culprit, so they reported the case to the Zhuhe County Governor's office. However, since Wu Yu had already escaped from Qi, the Zhuhe County Governor's office couldn't possibly go to the coastal islands to investigate the case. They also lacked the strength to do so, so they passed the case up. In the end, it accumulated in the capital's inspection office, where Zheng Xiaoming found it and brought it to Jiang Wang. This is it. After carefully reading the case, Jiang Wang patted the file and made a decision. According to the information, Wu Yu was an outer building expert. The difference in strength between an inner house cultivator and an outer house cultivator with remarkable powers was usually slightly weaker than an ordinary outer house cultivator of a realm. If there were no new remarkable powers, the difference in strength between each realm would be widened. This was because every Starlight's sacred building could increase one's strength by a terrifying amount. Only an equally powerful remarkable power could close the gap. If every mansion could obtain a remarkable power, it could ensure that the gap wouldn't be widened. Normally, the 4 mansions and 4 remarkable powers cultivators were slightly weaker than ordinary outer house cultivators of the 4 realms. However, the Heaven's Mansion cultivators were definitely stronger than ordinary outer house cultivators. Of course, this standard wasn't constant. With the development of the cultivation world, the Starlight's sacred buildings of the various top forces were all on the same level. The gap in strength wouldn't be too big. However, everyone's remarkable powers were different. Everyone's development of remarkable powers was also ever-changing. The resulting gap couldn't be accurately judged. It was like the difference between heaven and earth. For example, Jiang Wang's true Samadhi Fire and Stray Path were both extremely powerful, remarkable powers. If they were developed properly, it wouldn't be difficult for him to defeat ordinary outer house cultivators of the 2 realms. Another example was Li Fengyao. The remarkable powers she obtained from the first mansion were beneficial to her cultivation. Of course, it was also extremely valuable. However, when used in battle, it might not be enough for her to defeat ordinary outer house cultivators of the first realm. For the current Jiang Wang, an ordinary outer house cultivator of the first realm, Wu Yu, might not be a piece of cake, but he had a 70% to 80% chance of defeating him. The remaining 30% or 30% would depend on how to find Wu Yu. Chapter 803. Due to Wu Yu's case, they needed to go to the coastal islands to arrest the culprit. Jiang Wang was able to enter the secret location of the patrol office and read the relevant information of the patrol office regarding the coastal islands. The son of the Northern Yamen Commandant opened the door for Jiang Wang to find out a lot of information that he did not need to know for this mission. For example, the Isle of Wight, the Tinyao platform, the Black Valley, and even the various sects scattered around the patrol office. Some hidden rumors and history were not a problem. He even looked up the full picture of Su Xiangqian's jealousy with someone in the patrol office. It was far more detailed than Cheng Gengsheng's gloating account. The person who fought with Su Gaogao was a direct disciple of Fishing Ocean Tower, a young expert called Yang Lu. They were jealous of a girl called Zhao Wuyan. This girl was said to be a genius Confucian cultivator from Longmen Academy. Longmen Academy was one of the 4 great academies in the world, just like Greencliff Academy. It was known for its ability to train geniuses. Entering this academy was like leaping through the Dragon's Gate. Just like Jixia Academy, it was also known as the Qi Earth Dragon sect, but not many people in the world acknowledged it. Of course, this also had to do with Jixia Academy's strict control and rarely leaked information. The process of Su Xiangqian and Yang Lu's enmity was also very dramatic. In summary, it was nothing more than, "Why are you pestering her?" Or "What does it have to do with you?" Then, they started fighting. According to the records of the city's patrol office, the 2 of them were evenly matched, and it was difficult to determine who was better. However, the location of the incident was the Isle of Wight, which was the headquarters of Fishing Ocean Tower. Yang Lu easily gathered a group of martial brothers and chased after Su Xiangqian until he was running like a pack of wolves, losing all decorum. Due to Greencliff Academy's reputation, they did not suffer too much damage. However, the enmity was formed, and they lost face. Greencliff Academy did not have much influence in the patrol office. Li Longchuan of the Stone Gate Li family personally went out to sea and flew into a rage to stand up for his friend. In short, the entire incident was very funny. 2 disciples of famous sects fought like hooligans over a woman. It was an ugly scene. While Jiang Wang was secretly laughing, he could not help but be curious about the main character of this incident, Zhao Wuyan of Longmen Academy. He really wanted to see what kind of charm this person had to be able to make the experienced Su Gaogao stumble. That kid wasn't one to suffer a loss when the odds were against him. Jiang Wang had already finished reading the relevant information about the offshore islands. After seeing Su Gaogao's glorious past, he thought of something and asked, "I heard that Huaying Palace Master beat up Yin Fu. What was the reason?" He was quite curious. Where the detailed records? Cheng Gengsheng had mentioned this to him before, but because of Zhu Biqiong's matter, he forgot to ask. When he thought about it later, he didn't want to ask Cheng Gengsheng about it. He didn't want that fatty to get complacent and take the opportunity to blackmail him. Zhang Xiangming's face revealed a difficult expression. The matters of those few people, our patrol office does not record. Jiang Wang knew at a glance that there might be records of the Qi royal family in the inspection office. Or maybe the records could only be shown to certain people. In short, it was a taboo for venerables, and it was not easy for him to reveal it. He didn't want to make things difficult for his friends, so he just nodded. "It doesn't matter. I was just casually asking." Zhang Xiangming smiled and said, "However, I personally know some inside information about this matter. It seems that because Prime Minister Yan's grandson broke the engagement first, Huaying Palace Master stood up for a good friend and taught him a lesson. Yin Ping had retired for many years, but people were still used to calling him Prime Minister Yan. It could be seen how deeply rooted his position in the hearts of the Qi people was. I haven't heard of this." Jiang Wang remembered that when he was in the western region, Cheng Gengsheng vaguely mentioned that Yin Fu was going to be arranged to marry. Later, he didn't connect this matter with Jiang Wuyo beating him up. He couldn't help but be curious. Which family's girl is it? Ryu family. Zhang Xiangming smiled and changed the topic, unwilling to say more. Of course, this was just gossip. Why else would it be called a coincidence? As soon as Jiang Wang walked out of the door of the capital city's inspection office, a servant wearing a green robe and a small hat came up to him and respectfully said, "Lord Jiang, my family's young master invites you to meet him." "Who is your family's young master?" Jiang Wang asked. The servant respectfully replied, "This one is from the Yin family. My family's young master is an old acquaintance of yours." Yin Fu. He had just heard rumors about him in the capital city's inspection office, but he didn't expect to meet him as soon as he walked out. To be more precise, Yin Fu's servant had been waiting here for a long time. Where is he? Yin Fu could be considered one of his friends in Linzi City, and he hadn't seen him in a long time. Jiang Wang couldn't help but feel somewhat happy. But at the same time, he was also puzzled. With Yin Fu's gentle and quiet personality, he wouldn't put on airs and wait for Jiang Wang just to see him and have a servant come to invite him. "Please come with me," the servant said softly. In Lindsay City, he wasn't afraid of being kidnapped. Jiang Wang suppressed his curiosity and followed the servant outside. After passing through the bustling streets, they turned into a small alley and pushed open a low-latched door. Yin Fu was standing behind the door. He cupped his hands and apologized to Jiang Wang. Sorry for the lack of manners, Brother Jiang. This small courtyard was actually very close to the capital city's inspection office. It wasn't far from the side, and one could even see the overhanging eaves of the inspection office from the courtyard. Jiang Wang looked around and smiled. I didn't expect the Yin family to have another business here. I bought it at the last minute in order to see Brother Jiang. Yin Fu said casually and gestured behind him. I found out about Brother Jiang's return a bit late. Otherwise, I would have prepared a welcome dinner for you. The preparations were a bit hasty, so I hope Brother Jiang won't take offense. Behind him was a table full of sumptuous dishes, beasts, dragon cakes, and phoenix wine. At first glance, one could only see the word expensive. It could only be said that the hasty of a wealthy family was different from the common people's understanding. In order to receive Jiang Wang, as soon as Jiang Wang left the capital city's inspection office, he bought a courtyard here at the last minute. Although this courtyard was small, it was close to the capital city's inspection office, so the land price couldn't be cheap. Moreover, it was a last-minute purchase. If he had to arrange it in time, the price would have to be doubled. But in Yin Fu's words, it was such an ordinary matter. How could the word wealthy be enough to describe him? This is still considered hasty? Jiang Wang smiled. You must know that when Cheng Gengsheng welcomed me that day, he prepared half a pot of tea, and he drank it for a long time. After saying this, he explained, It's not that I forgot an old friend. It's just that I have an extremely urgent matter to attend to, and I really can't stay idle. So I didn't inform you. I don't mean to blame Brother Jiang. Yin Fu waved his hand. Gaozha returned to Jinghai, and Long Chuan and Xiangqian went to Huaidao. Even if you informed them, they couldn't come. As for me, at this point, he laughed bitterly. I also have to find some time to secretly see my old friends. The people he was talking about were all in Lindsay before the new year. They were used to drinking and having fun together. Here were the grandson of the former prime minister, the son of the head of the Sherman Li family, the outstanding disciple of Qingya Academy, the young master of Jinghai's Gao family. Even if they couldn't do as they pleased in Lindsay, they could still flatten most places. Who would have thought that in the blink of an eye, Su Xiangqian and Yin Fu would be beaten up one after another? Things remained the same, but people changed. It made one secretly laugh. Oh no, sigh. P.S. Extras in the extras building. Usually, when I use them, I'll give you a like. When you see my like, you should know that you're about to appear. Chapter 804. Jiang Wang asked curiously, You can only secretly meet your old friend when you're free. Why do you say that? Earlier, when he came, he had some doubts. Yin Fu Fugue was rich, but he was not a person who put on airs. Why did he have to set up a banquet in the small courtyard and wait so boldly, only to have the servants invite Jiang Wang over? I'm ashamed to say this. Yin Fu's usually gentle and calm face was quite bitter at this moment. Huaying Palace Master spread the word that she would beat me every time she saw me. I can't beat her, so I had to avoid her. Yin Fu was a man of great wealth and wealth. He did not care about anything or anyone. He was always calm and indifferent. It was not easy to see him suffer a setback. To be honest, it was quite interesting. Jiang Wang picked up a dish and put it into his mouth. He chewed slowly and savored the aftertaste before saying, Marriage and funeral are personal matters. Why does Huaying Palace Master not let you go? Yin Fu put down his wine cup and rolled his eyes at him. Brother Jiang, why do you ask when you already know the answer? He knew in his heart. Cheng Gengsheng definitely couldn't keep secrets. At least, it was impossible for him to not tell Jiang Wang, even if he specifically told him. He was right, but because of Zhu Biqiong's matter, Cheng Gengsheng didn't have time to tell Jiang Wang in detail how he was beaten up by Jiang Wuyo that day. However, Jiang Wang couldn't hold back his curiosity. He specifically asked Zheng Shangming at the inspection office in the capital. It was rare to see Yin Fu reveal his emotions. Jiang Wang couldn't help but smile and ask seriously, I only know that brother Yin had a marriage alliance before, but later broke it, so Huaying Palace Master stood up for her close friend. However, I really don't know the inside story. Alas, Yin Fu sighed. How should I say this? Huaying Palace Master didn't make trouble for me. But he was probably really depressed. He pressed his hand on the wine glass and didn't drink for a long time. He looked at Jiang Wang and said, I'm also wronged. Brother Jiang should know that with my background, it's hard for me to decide my own marriage. I'm not the one who wants to form a marriage alliance, and I'm not the one who wants to break the engagement. But I was the one who was scolded, and I was also the one who was beaten. Jiang Wang almost laughed out loud, but he forced himself to hold it in. He said, doubtfully, I thought that a family like the Yin family, especially when it comes to Brother Yan's marriage, would have considered all aspects thoroughly. Why did you break off the engagement after getting married in such a short time? He really couldn't understand. Isn't this treating your life as a game? It seems that Cheng Gengsheng is quite tight-lipped. He really didn't tell you. It's me who's narrow-minded and narrow-minded. Under such circumstances, Yin Fu still had the leisure to tease him. Then he explained, the family that wants to form a marriage alliance and the family that wants to break off the engagement are not the same family. However, he obviously misunderstood Cheng Gengsheng. Cheng Gengsheng had long wanted to talk about it. It was just that he had more pressing matters to attend to, so he didn't have time to go into detail. The Ryu family's daughter, Yu Huchong, and I were betrothed to the Ryu family's old man. Later, the Ryu family's old man passed away early. The Ryu family didn't have anyone who could support the family, so their power gradually declined. The Yin family didn't disregard their old relationship. At that time, it was my family's old man who stepped in and helped the Ryu family stabilize the family's power. The family's old man that Yin Fu mentioned was naturally his grandfather, the former Prime Minister Yin Ping. He had assisted the government for many years, and his contributions were greater than that of the country. It was also him who single-handedly led the peaceful destruction of the Yang country, causing the Yang country's language and calendar to disappear. Although the destruction of the Yang country was due to Chongxian and Chu Liang, for the three prefectures of the Yang country to submit so smoothly, Yin Ping's contributions couldn't be ignored. Yu Huchong, this name isn't bad. I wonder what kind of person he is. Jiang Wang pondered in his heart. Yin Fu continued. Later on, something big happened in the Ryu family. The Ryu family's top disciple, Tianjiao Lu Shentong, fought with Tian Anping in Chaming Prefecture. In the end, he was killed by Tian Anping. Tian Anping. Jiang Wang had a deep impression of this name and this person. No matter who it was, when they mentioned this person to him, they all told him not to mess with him. Even the Tian family of days feared him like a tiger and privately called him a monster. When he appeared in the Seven-Star Valley, the arrogant Lei Zhanxian immediately tucked his tail between his legs, and the arrogant Li Fengyao also controlled his temper. He actually killed a descendant of a famous family. He killed a top disciple of Tianjiao, and it was in Changming Prefecture. After staying in the Qi Prefecture for so long, Jiang Wang had some understanding of the prefectures in the Qi Prefecture. In the entire Qi Prefecture, there were 35 other prefectures. Jiang Wang was most familiar with the three prefectures of the Qi Prefecture. Other than that, he had been to Qiyang, Days, Fengxian, and Bei Prefecture. Changming Prefecture was southwest of the Qi Prefecture. To the south was Shimin Prefecture, where the Li family was located. To the west was Fufeng Prefecture, where the Ryu family had been operating for generations. To the west of Fufeng Prefecture was the former border prefecture, Pingxi. After annexing the Yang Prefecture, Pingxi had lost its meaning as a border prefecture. From Changming Prefecture to Days Prefecture in the north of the empire, the shortest route was 3 prefectures. In other words, regardless of the strength of the Lu clan's peerless genius, Lu Shantong, it was almost impossible for Tian Anping to escape back to the Great Swamp County since he dared to kill Lu Shantong in the neighboring Fufeng County. But in the end, Everyone knew that Tian Anping was still watching the stars in Jiqing's Fu by pavilion, safe and sound. Lu Shintong was Yu Huchang's eldest brother. The Ryu family had 2 sons and 1 daughter. From the eldest to the youngest, they were Lu Shantong, Yu Huchang, and Lu Xuanhu. Our ancestors once said that if the Ryu family had 100 years of luck, it would be on Lu Shintong. So Lu Shintong's death was something that the Ryu family did not want to face and could not forgive. At that time, the Fufeng Ryu family sent out all their experts to kill Tian Anping in Changming Prefecture to avenge Lu Shintong. Just by imagining how intense that scene was from Yin Fu's description, Jiang Wang subconsciously held his breath. But Tian Anping was too strong. Yin Fu's words were laced with deep wariness. He nurtured killing with killing and broke into the God Advent realm at the last moment. He single-handedly withstood the encirclement of the Windfall Lu clan, led by Lu Xiao, and held out until the Tian clan's reinforcements arrived. Perhaps it couldn't be said that Tian Anping had held out until the clan came to his rescue, because from start to finish, Tian Anping had never thought of running away. He didn't even ask for help. The people of the Tian family only received the news after the matter had spread. During that battle, the 2 top families had a blood feud. More and more people gathered, and it was as if they were going to start a war of extermination in Changming Prefecture. The head of the Ryu family, Lu Shintong's father, swore that he would not share the sun and moon with the Tian family. The local governor's office could not stop them. The impact of this battle was so great that it even attracted His Majesty to Changming Prefecture. He suppressed the matter and prevented it from spreading. It was not difficult for Jiang Wang to deduce how Emperor Qi dealt with the matter. The battle stopped and a verdict was passed. Naturally, Lady Lu of Fufeng demanded that blood be repaid with blood. The Tian clan of the Great Swamp could also insist that Tian Anping killed Lu Shintong by accident during the battle and should be forgiven. They had lost Old Master Lu, their pillar of support, and Lu Shintong. They had lost their future. No matter how one looked at it, the Ryu family of Fufeng could not compete with the Tian family of Days. From Emperor Qi's point of view, would a peerless Tianjiao like Tian Anping benefit the Qi, or would his death benefit the Qi? The answer was obvious. In the end, Tian Anping survived. This was probably the biggest demand of the Tian family of Days. No matter how much resources they had to give up, as long as Tian Anping was alive, it was worth it. Lu Shintong was praised by Yin Ping as someone who could support the Fufeng Ryu family for 100 years. Then what about Tian Anping, who killed Lu Shintong? Should I gather the names of the 35 counties of Qi? It's too tiring to think about each of them. Once I fill in the names, I can release the map of Qi. Chapter 805. Even if Tian Anping didn't ask for help, the Tian clan of Days still tried their best to save him. In order to protect him, the Tian clan didn't hesitate to engage in a bloody war with the Fufeng Ryu clan. From this, one could see Tian Anping's value. What happened in the end? Jiang Wang asked. Tian Anping's golden body jade marrow was broken. The 4 great sacred buildings were destroyed, and his inner mansion realm was reduced. He was sealed for 10 years and confined to the Days County. Within these 10 years, he couldn't break through or leave the county. With his cultivation and the 10 years of his mortal lifespan, he was able to atone for his crime of killing Lu Shintong. Yin Fu sighed. This year is already the 9th year. If one didn't reach the Shunlin realm, it would still be an illusion. Only by reaching the Shunlin realm could one truly break through the lifespan limit. With a golden body jade marrow, one wouldn't be afraid of aging, and one's cultivation would only decline after death. Since ancient times, only 1 in 10,000 cultivators could break through the Shunlin realm. Every one of them had to go through hardships. After one's realm was reduced, the difficulty of regaining it was multiplied. Ordinary people who had their golden body jade marrow broken and the 4 great sacred buildings destroyed had almost no chance of recovering. But for Tian Anping, he was sealed for 10 years. This showed how terrifying this person was. For such a peerless genius, Not being able to make any progress in his cultivation for 10 years is truly a terrifying torture. Jiang Wang sighed. But compared to the dead Lu Shantong, this is already fortunate enough. Tian Anping didn't kill an ordinary person. He was the legitimate son of a famous clan, a member of the Fufeng Ryu clan in Tianjiao. He couldn't have not paid a price. Who said he wasn't? Yin Fu said, in order to protect Tian Anping's life, the Tian clan paid a heavy price and gave up a huge amount of resources. When the Tian clan master welcomed Tian Anping back, he said, "I don't know if the Tian clan is lucky or unlucky to have you." Listening to Yin Fu's narration, Jiang Wang's mind was filled with the scene of Tian Anping's appearance in the Seven Stars Valley. Thin clothes over his body, hands and feet bound, chains dragging on the ground. Calm, pain, indifference, madness. It was as if it had gathered all the contradictory existences. Yin Fu continued. However, the head of the Ryu family only replied with one sentence. If Lu Shantong can be revived, the Ryu family is willing to give up these things. This left the Tian family speechless. Save the people and lose the land, but gain the people and the land. If you keep the land but lose the people, you will lose both the people and the land. No matter how many resources there were, it was impossible to produce a top-notch genius. A huge amount of wealth and resources could only slow down the decline of the Ryu clan. Willow Shintong alone could bring the Ryu clan back to its peak. It went without saying which was more important. Back then, Tian Anping and Lu Shantong had fought over something. Before the great battle, only the two of them were present. Later on, when Lu Shantong died, Tian Anping did not mention a word about it. Even now, no one knew the reason. However, the matter of Tian Anping killing Lu Shantong was a lose-lose for both parties and even the families behind them. The Fufeng Ryu clan was unable to recover from the setback, and the dazed Tian clan had almost bled dry in order to atone for Tian Anping's sins. It was no wonder that the Tian family was filled with resentment towards Tian Anping. A normal person would not have made such a choice. In the past 10 years, only Wang Yiwu had attempted to kill Cheng Gongsheng. However, Cheng Gongsheng was still alive and well, while Wang Yiwu and military god Jiang Mingxiong were both expelled from Linzi and sent to the death row for 3 years. In the end, Tian Anping did not pay with his life. Wasn't this unfair to the Fufeng Ryu clan? Tian Anping was a Qianjiao that was beaten from Shunlin to the inner palace and was not allowed to break through for 10 years. Wasn't this too harsh for Tian Anping? Different people would have different answers. However, there was one thing that everyone was clear about. If no one had stopped the bloody battle in the past, the Fufeng Ryu clan would have been destroyed in the end. I've seen Tian Anping, Jiang Wang said solemnly. He is indeed a terrifying person. Now, he had 2 palaces and 2 abilities. Thinking back to the time when he met Tian Anping, the Tian Anping whose cultivation was limited to the outer palace, he still felt terrified. Logically speaking, no matter who it was in the inner palace, he should have the confidence to fight. However, the terrifying pressure that Tian Anping gave him was something he did not even feel from Hai Zongming of the outer palace. Even if he was suppressed for 10 years, such a person might not have stopped improving. However, after the inner palace was the establishment of the Starlight Holy Tower. He was beaten back from Shunlin. The Starlight Holy Tower was established early, and the abilities were set early. What else could he do? Jiang Wang could not think of anything, but he felt that Tian Anping must have his own way, a way that normal people could not think of. When the 10 years were up, he might be able to find out how Tian Anping had spent the past 10 years. Yin Fu obviously did not want to continue talking about Tian Anping. He finally drank the wine in his hand and said, Lu Shantong was killed. Fufeng Lu can no longer see the future. Even so, my ancestor did not decide to cancel the marriage. The Tian family of the days paid such a huge price. My ancestor, as the in-laws of the Ryu clan, also contributed. However, the problem lies with Xiuzhang's younger brother. Lu Xuanhu. Jiang Wang was curious. Is he also a genius? On the contrary, Yin Fu said, when Lu Shentong died, he was only 10 years old. He had just adjusted his body and opened his meridians by taking a pill. With the resources of the Ryu clan and the guidance of strong people, he was able to reach the reaching heaven state in just 1 year. However, 9 years have passed, and he is still in the reaching heaven state. He was stopped in front of the heaven and earth gate for 8 years. Jiang Wang said, maybe this means that his heaven and earth gate is indestructible and has great potential. Yin Fu shook his head. Wang Yiwu was stuck in the reaching heaven state for so long. Who said that he was mediocre? The heaven and earth gate is something that can be observed. Facts have proven that Lu Xuanhu was unable to break through the heaven and earth gate. Even with the support of the Fufeng Ryu clan, which has been passed down from generation to generation, it is impossible for him to have the fighting strength of Shunlin. All the top aristocratic families had similar inheritances. For example, the old master of the Zhenggenjia, Chongxin Yunbua, had relied on the Zhenggenjia family's inheritances to have the fighting strength of a Shunlin when he reached the peak of the outer building. Without such methods, the Zhenggenjia would have fallen to the bottom of the valley when Chongxian Futu, Chongxian Mingshan, and Chongxian Chuliang died in battle. Of course, the Zhenggenjia now had one family and 2 marquises. There was nothing much to say about Chongxian Mingwang, while Chongxian Mingyi was considered average. The younger generation, Yung Gunzuan, had stolen the limelight of his peers. The son of Futu, Cheng Gengsheng, was not to be outdone. He had obtained the top-notch divine ability, heavenly transformation, in the inner mansion realm. His future was promising. After returning to the Fufeng Ryu clan, Lu Shentong's younger brother, Lu Xuanhu, was too weak to support the family. In order to pass down the glory, the Ryu clan had to pass down the family's inheritance. The top aristocratic families didn't just pass down the family's status and title. They also passed down the extraordinary power. Passing down the family's inheritance wouldn't work. Whoever had the extraordinary power would have the status and authority. The real world was just that cruel. Once the powerful Zhenggenjia and Chongxian Chuliang rose up, they had to establish their own families. However, what if no one in Chongxian Yunbua's line could support the family and protect the Shun Lin clan's fighting strength? That would be for Chongxian Chuliang to take control of the family. Marquis Dingyuan was also good, but how could he compare to the hereditary Marquis Baoang? When Yin Fu said this, Jiang Wang completely understood. With the Beijun Yin clan's background, the only person who could match up with Yin Fu was the daughter of the first wife of a prestigious family. Once Yu Huchang's line became a side branch of the Ryu clan, they naturally wouldn't have a right to marry into the Yin family. This point wasn't something that could be changed by Yin Fu's will. This was why he said that with his background, he couldn't decide his own marriage. Chapter 806. Jiang Wang thought for a while and said, Palace Master Huaying should be able to understand this. Yin Fu smiled bitterly. My engagement with the Ryu family's daughter was supposed to end long ago. However, the Fufeng Ryu family didn't want to move the main wife away. They said that Lu Xuanhu was diligent in his cultivation and would break through soon. The Yin family didn't want to force him. Thus, the matter was delayed. Yin Fu was a gentle and quiet person. He didn't say some things, but it wasn't hard to guess. The head of the Ryu family didn't want to move the main wife away, so he kept torturing his youngest son, Lu Xuanhu. At the same time, he didn't want to let go of the engagement with the Yin family. He wanted to use the power of the Yin family to strengthen his bloodline. Perhaps, until the day the Ryu family decided to move the main wife away, he wouldn't mention the cancellation of the engagement. What happened next was very easy to understand. Yin Fu didn't officially cancel the engagement, but everyone knew that it would happen sooner or later. If it wasn't for Palace Master Huaying, many people wouldn't even know that Yin Fu had an engagement with the Ryu family's daughter. With Yin Fu's qualifications, he didn't have to worry about marriage. There was no lack of marriage alliances in the Yin family. Therefore, old Master Yin found another family for his grandson. That was why Zhong Xuansheng had told Jiang Wang in the Great Illusionary Realm that Yin Fu would be arranged for a marriage alliance. In fact, even Cheng Gung Sheng didn't know that Yin Fu had an engagement when he was a child. It wasn't a big secret, but not many people paid attention to it. Later, the Wen family wanted to marry my family. My ancestor arranged a daughter from the Wen family for me. Her name was Ting Lan. Since they wanted to marry her, I naturally had to cancel the engagement. Therefore, I went to Fufeng County and canceled the engagement. Because Wen Dinglin is the daughter of Wen Yinyu, the imperial court's senior minister, Huaying Palace's empress said that I despise the poor and favor the rich, curry favor with the powerful, and greedy for vanity. Yin Fu looked embarrassed. That day, I was drinking with Brother Chongxian when the Huaying Palace master came looking for me. I had no choice but to flee. The imperial counselor was an incredible position. Qi's political system was not complicated. In terms of political affairs, the prime minister was the head of the political affairs hall. In the political affairs hall, there were a total of 9 imperial counselors discussing politics. Under the political affairs hall, there were 3 departments: rights, household, and officials. He was in charge of etiquette, economy, and governance. Zhao Xian, who was stabbed to death by the gates of hell, was a doctor from the Ministry of Rights, a 4th-rank official. All of Qi's government decrees came from the political affairs hall. One could imagine the status of the 9 imperial officials. They were all 2nd-rank officials. In terms of military affairs, the country protecting marshal was in charge of the military affairs hall. The commanders of the 9 soldiers were all in the military hall. The military affairs hall controlled all the soldiers and horses in the world. However, when there was a war, it would come from the military affairs hall. For example, Dingyuan Marquis Chongxian Chu Liang was one of the 9 commanders and was in the military affairs hall. Apart from that, there were the various governor houses who were in charge of administration, military affairs, and the city lord houses under them. All in all, they did not go against each other, but they occasionally crossed paths. For example, the governor house could not handle the Golden Needle case, so they reported it to Lindsay. There were also some special offices like internal officials, night watchmen, and the Capital Inspection House. They were not under the Political Affairs Hall or the Military Affairs Hall, and they were directly under the orders of the emperor. Among them, the Capital City Patrol Office was a very special office. The Northern Commandant had a low position and was in charge of the capital city security, but in fact, he had a certain degree of authority over the world's bandits. The power that could be expanded was very shocking. This was also why the North Yamen Commandant was promoted after becoming a god descendant. The North Yamen Commandant was only a 4th-rank official, but the power that the Capital Inspection House could use was not limited to that. Just the blue metal system alone was a very powerful system, but it was under the control of the North Yamen. Of course, how much power the Northern Yamen Commandant had depended on how many people the Commandant could command. After all, there were some blue medal holders who did not need to give face to the North Yamen Commandant. For example, Arrestor Yulong. He was a 3rd-rank blue medal arrestor and a 2nd-rank retired official, so he was several ranks higher than Zheng Shurong. If Zheng Shurong did not coax him well, Yulong could totally ignore the North Yamen's orders. All in all, Yin Fu had made a good marriage. He was a minister of imperial affairs, and his position was almost equal to that of Chongxian Chuliang. Of course, Chongxian Chuliang was also a marquis, but that was not something a minister of imperial affairs could compare to. Yin Fu had found a minister of imperial affairs to be his father-in-law, so it was no wonder that the Huaying Palace master scolded him for despising the poor and loving the rich. However, with Yin Fu's family background, there was no need for him to love the rich. Who could be richer than his family? Yin Fu was actually very wronged in this matter. When a marriage was arranged years ago, he could not object to it. Later on, the Ryu family in Fufeng had a series of mishaps, and the marriage only existed in name. It was not something he could decide. Later on, when his grandfather Yin Ping and the Minister of Imperial Affairs when Yin Yu decided on the marriage, could he still jump out and say that he did not agree? Naturally, he could only go to Fufeng Prefecture to cancel a marriage. However, He had indeed taken the initiative to cancel the marriage, and was scolded by the Huaying palace master. He was even chased and beaten up, and there was no room for him to resist. From the perspective of the Ryu family's daughter, Yu Huchang, she was even more innocent. Originally, she was the legitimate daughter of a prestigious family and had a marriage that everyone envied. However, before she could do anything, the pillar of her family collapsed. Her Tianjiao brother, whom she had high hopes for, was killed by a madman, and the family's power plummeted. In the end, her younger brother was a good-for-nothing, and many resources could not be piled up, so he had to be transferred to another family. She did nothing, but she was about to become the daughter of the Ryu family's branch family, and the marriage was even canceled. She did not offend anyone, but she was humiliated like this. Just the word miserable was enough to describe it. As Yu Huchang's close friend, it was understandable that the Huaying palace master, Jiang Wuyo, was furious. No matter how angry she was, she could not find trouble with the former prime minister, Yin Ping, right? No matter how innocent Yin Fu was, he could only be a target for her to vent her anger. Jiang Wang sympathetically ate 2 dishes. After chewing and swallowing, he said, "No wonder you had to be so secretive when you came see me. You were afraid of bumping into the Huaying palace master again." "Brother Jiang, I won't hide it from you. I've been a bit depressed recently. When I heard that you were back, I quickly arranged for someone to come and see you. Just say something casually." Yin Fu shook his head and sighed. "You came back just in time. In a few days, I plan to go out to sea to hide. Aren't Brother Long Chuan and Brother Xiangqian at the coastal islands? I want to find them to relax and see the scenery at sea." Jiang Wang's expression was strange. "That's pretty good." Yin Fu was immersed in his own grievances and did not hear the problem. Instead, he asked, "Brother Jiang, do you want to go with me?" Jiang Wang said, "I do have something to do at the coastal islands, but it's not that urgent." He didn't tell Yin Fu what he was going to do. It wasn't that he was estranged. Compared to Yin Fu, he actually got along better with Yin Fu. It was just that he already owed him a big favor for rescuing Zhu Biqiu. He didn't want to owe him any more. As for why he didn't tell Yin Fu that Jiang Wuyo was also going to the coastal islands, he just wanted to see Yin Fu get beaten up. Cheng Gongsheng had already seen it, but he hadn't. It was a pity. Yin Fu didn't understand Jiang Wang's mood. He was still happy that he was at a disadvantage. He didn't know that he had bad friends. He raised his glass and said, "Then I'll go first and scout for Brother Jiang. See you at sea." "Definitely." Jiang Wang was all smiles. "P.S. This background is really suitable. It's so suitable that I want to open a sock puppet and write a female novel. Write a female protagonist of Yu Huchang. Don't bully a poor young man." She punched Yin Fu as a heartless man. She stepped on Jiang Wang as an accomplice. She controlled the family in one hand and protected the position of the main branch. She avenged her brother and fought Tian Anping. She led the family to rise and helped her best friend fight for the throne. Chapter 807. Inside the Longevity Palace. Flowers bloomed brightly outside the window. Spring was still chilly. The 9th prince of Great Qi, Jiang Wuqi, who was wearing a fox fur coat, was drinking medicine from a jade bowl. The medicine was dark brown in color. A strange, disgusting smell lingered in the air, making one feel nauseous. However, his expression was calm as he slowly swallowed the food in small mouthfuls. A book was spread out on the table in front of him. He held the jade bowl and drank the medicine. His gaze fell on the book. He was using the book as an accompaniment to the medicine. Lei Zhanxian, who was sitting not far away, was frowning. He couldn't understand how his cousin could drink such a disgusting medicine as if nothing had happened. He could even taste it mouthful by mouthful. Just a sniff was enough to make him feel unspeakably bitter. "This medicine of yours?" Lei Zhanxian covered his nose and asked, "Is there a secret behind it that makes it taste and smell completely different?" Jiang Wuqi finished reading the paragraph in front of him and chuckled. "Cousin, since you're so curious, I'll have someone cook another bowl for you. How about it?" "I don't want to." Lei Zhanxian hurriedly refused. No matter how precious this medicine was, he didn't want to let his tongue suffer. For a transcendent cultivator with aspirations to reach the peak, there was almost nothing he couldn't endure, but there was no need to make things difficult for himself. After Jiang Wuqi slowly finished the medicine in the jade bowl, he said, "There's something worth pondering over. I sent people to investigate Zhang Linchuan. 3 batches of people went, but none of them returned. The usually arrogant and conceited Lei Zhanqian didn't seem to have any edge in front of Jiang Wuqi. Just like ordinary cousins, they spoke casually and chatted casually. Jiang Wuqi slowly wiped his mouth with a handkerchief and asked casually, "Zhang Linchuan?" Lei Zhanqian smiled. "That's the alias Jiang Wang uses on the Void Continent." Jiang Wuqi gently folded the handkerchief and put it aside. His eyes were still staring at the book. "Why are you investigating this? Don't you think there's a problem?" Lei Zhanqian said, "Jiang Wang is from the Zhuang Kingdom of the Western region. I don't know how he got acquainted with Zhong Xuansheng and snuck into the Tianfu secret realm. Later on, he was brought along to participate in the Battle of Qiyang. Only then did he settle down into Qi. The problem is, if he's from the Western Zhuang Kingdom, why did I send 3 batches of people to his roots? What did you find out?" Jiang Wuqi was still looking. Seeing that Jiang Wuqi wasn't interested, Lei Zhanqian lost his enthusiasm. "I only know that there's someone called Zhang Linchuan in the Zhuang state. He's the bone envoy of the Bone Path. It's a cult that's not even on the list." Jiang Wuqi's heart skipped a beat. "Cousin, your 9 heavens thunder developing technique is unfathomably profound. When cultivated to the end, using thunder to replace heavenly phenomena, using thunder techniques to develop all techniques. What kind of spirit is that? Those who lie high in the 9 heavens should just occasionally look at the mortal world. Why should you be so fixated on momentary success and failure?" Lei Zhanqian was silent for a while. In the end, he didn't want to continue this topic. He changed the topic and said, "It's fine if you don't take advantage of the situation to suppress the elder of Fishing Sea Tower. Why did you protect him? He had bad intentions and used me to become famous. He almost melted my thunder seal." There were actually different opinions within Qi about Jiang Wang killing Hai Zoming. Some people felt that there was no need to fall out with Fishing Sea Tower over Jiang Wang. Of course, these voices were very weak. The great Qi wouldn't lower its head to Fishing Sea Tower, and it wouldn't be unable to protect its own talents. However, Jiang Wuqi clearly supported Jiang Wang at that time. He felt that Jiang Wang killing Hai Zoming was completely justified. There was no reason to disrupt Qi's plans in the coastal waters. Jiang Wuqi knew that his support didn't play a key role. The entire Qi imperial court didn't think that this was a problem. Lei Zhanqian also knew this. However, he had still brought it out to talk about it. It was nothing more than finding an excuse to do so because he couldn't get rid of the knot in his heart. Even so, Jiang Wuqi still replied seriously, "He's the Tianjiao of the Qi. Of course I have to protect him." Lei Zhanqian pursed his lips. "He's not a Qi person." Jiang Wuqi closed the book. His expression became very serious. "Don't say this again. He lives in a Qi house, receives a Qi salary, holds a Qi position, is loyal to the Qi, and fights for the Qi. How is he not a Qi person?" He was obviously a little angry. He's not a Qi person if he's not born in the Qi land. The world is big, and the 6 directions are vast. It starts from the sunrise and ends at the sunset. If his heart is Qi, he's a Qi person. If the ancestors of the Qi were as short-sighted as you, cousin, Qi would still be a fishing village by the sea. Lei Zhanqian's resentment, dissatisfaction, complaints, and judgment didn't matter. Jiang Wuqi didn't care. This was the natural closeness between cousins. However, if he said something too immoral or did something that shook the Qi, Jiang Wuqi wouldn't tolerate it. This was the etiquette that the Qi's royal family members had to uphold. No matter how arrogant Lei Zhanqian was, he knew his priorities. He was a cousin and also an official. Seeing that Jiang Wuqi was really angry, he immediately compromised. "I won't say it in the future." However, he immediately said, Jiang Wang visited Jiang Wuxie and Jiang Wuyo after returning to Linzi. What did he visit you? No matter how fair you treat him, he won't side with you. In the future, he might even become a stumbling block for you. Jiang Wuxi gently coughed a few times. He pressed his hand on the book and stood up. He doesn't need to side with me. He hugged his fox fur coat tightly, as if he was a little embarrassed by the cold. He slowly walked out of the hall and said softly, "Siding with the Qi is siding with me." Lei Zhanqin was still sitting on the chair. He looked at Jiang Wuqi's thin back that even the fox fur coat couldn't hide. He only felt incomparable confidence and certainty. His steps were slow, but each step was like stepping on his own land. He thought, the future Qi will definitely belong to this person. There is no other choice. Chapter 808. The East Palace was called Changle. It was the residence of the Crown Prince. As usual, the Crown Prince had a team of civil servants who were in charge of political affairs. It was the Crown Prince's duty to share the country's burdens. For example, Jiang Wuliang had directly participated in the political affairs of the country. The political affairs, the military affairs, and all the country's affairs could not be avoided by him. During the Qi Xiao power struggle, his opinions were in conflict with the Qi emperors. The discussion of war and peace had reached a stalemate. Of course, everyone knew the final result. However, the current crown prince, Jiang Wuhua, was lazy and different from his predecessors. He avoided everything as much as he could. He would not touch anything that was not under the control of the East Palace. He would not do anything that was ambiguous. He would only reluctantly deal with the political affairs that the Qi emperor had arranged for him. Although everything was handled appropriately, it was still a small matter after all, and there was no merit in it. The entire East Palace was like him. They could not handle many important matters in a year. He was the crown prince with the weakest presence since the founding of the Qi dynasty. It was no wonder that his brothers and sisters rose up and wanted to compete with him for the position of crown prince. Jiang Wuyo, Jiang Wuxie, and Jiang Wuqi, which one of them was not outstanding? They had the talent, the means, and the support of their respective backgrounds. As for the crown prince, Jiang Wuhua, there was nothing outstanding about him. Even his mother's family was very ordinary. The He family did not have much influence. When Jiang Wuliang was deposed, his mother, Empressine, was also banished to the cold palace. She died of depression in less than a year. Perhaps the emperor wanted to balance the power of his relatives, so he made the He family, who had no background, the empress. The He family was too ordinary. They could not even be ranked among the 100 aristocratic families in Linzi. Empress He's only brother, He Fu, was not talented. He Zhen, the next generation of the He family, was only good at playing with birds and dogs. He could not provide any help at all. Jiang Wuhua seemed to have the upper hand after Jiang Wuliang was deposed because he was born early and older. However, what kind of advantage was born early and older? There was an even older one who was trapped in the Bluestone Palace. The waters of Linzi City were very deep. Everyone was thinking about their own matters. Countless undercurrents clashed underwater. Before the truth came to light, no one could see the result clearly. At this moment, Jiang Wuhua was holding a pair of sharp and shiny shears, trimming the flowers in the garden. His movements were slow and meticulous. He paid great attention to every detail. A white-faced, beardless eunuch stood behind him and reported in a low voice. The men from Qingyang town returned without success at the warm jade water pavilion. They probably failed to reach an agreement, but it seemed that he had gotten a good result in Huaying Palace. There was no movement from the Palace of Longevity. It seemed that the ninth prince had no intention of contacting the men of Qingyang town. On the other hand, the Lei family was paying close attention to him. You've instructed me to not expose myself when scouting for information, so I can't get more detailed information for the time being. He spoke quickly but clearly. The Greenstone Palace is still deathly still, not even a sound. In my opinion, Your Highness doesn't need to. His words came to a halt, because the large shears in Jiang Wuhua's hand stopped, and he looked at him. I only listen, you only look. You don't need to have an opinion. You don't need to have an opinion. and you don't need to tell me what you think. Can you understand? He asked. The eunuch swallowed. Yes. Jiang Wuhua didn't have any mighty or stern expression. When he said these words, the muscles on his face were completely relaxed, and there was no aggression. But who could ignore his opinion? Hearing the eunuch's answer, Jiang Wuhua nodded in satisfaction. He looked at the flowers in front of him carefully, and after a while, he continued to wave his shears. The eunuch stood to the side, motionless. After an unknown amount of time, Jiang Wuhua's nose suddenly twitched. He smiled happily. My soup is ready. Putting the large shears in the eunuch's hands, Jiang Wuhua, warmly instructed, continued to trim. You must make sure that the crown princess is satisfied. Don't make any mistakes. Put other things aside for now. This is the most important thing. Then he turned around with light steps and walked alone in the direction of the kitchen. It seemed that the Greenstone Palace, Huaying Palace, Mental Cultivation Palace, and Longevity Palace were not as important as his soup. On the way back to Qi, Jiang Wang was in a hurry. He had only tried the Blessed Land Challenge on February 15th in a hurry, and had hastily lost. From the 40th ranked Blessed Land, Mount Boqi, to the 41st ranked Blessed Land, Mount Luncheon, Jiang Wang had long been used to this kind of linear decline. It was endless fun to fight with the strong. Under the premise that his life was not in danger, it was an extreme enjoyment for someone like him who had great ambitions. Of course, it would be even more satisfying if he could win. Basically, as long as he had time, he would not miss any battle. His only worry was that one day he would be knocked out of his blessed land, and it would be difficult for him to have such an opportunity again. Fortunately, there were 72 blessed lands in the Great Illusionary Land, and there was still some leeway. In the monthly Blessed Land Challenge in the Great Illusionary Land, he basically had no chance of winning. It was unlike his triumphant progress in the Sword Discourse Arena, where he had finally entered the top 100 and was ranked 96th. It was worth mentioning that Zhuo Guangshu was currently ranked 64th in the Great Illusionary Land. Jiang Wang believed that if he went all out, he would be much stronger than Zhuo Guangshu. If he had enough time, it would not be a problem for him to enter the top 30. It was just that he did not know how many inner mansion cultivators the Great Illusionary Land had absorbed and what level of strength they would reach in the modern world. Because the rankings after the top 100 were not displayed, perhaps only the people behind the Great Illusionary Land knew the answer. During this period of time, Jiang Wang faintly felt that the Great Illusionary Land was undergoing some kind of subtle change, but if he wanted to examine it carefully, he could not tell where the change was. But it was definitely not an illusion. The existence of the Great Illusionary Land could not be hidden from everyone, but the attitudes of the major forces were very ambiguous. No one publicized it, and no one boycotted it with hundreds of people. Even people like Zhuo Guangshu and Zhong Xiansheng, who were from powerful families, did not know much about the Great Illusionary Realm. Perhaps it would not be long before there would be a change. And Jiang Wang was very much looking forward to the occurrence of that change. After completing his daily cultivation, Jiang Wang continued to focus his mind on the information related to the offshore islands. He wanted to find a way to save Zhu Biqiang. This matter was extremely difficult. Even with the help of Jiang Wuyo and Cheng Gengsheng, the chances of success were very slim. 100% of the effort, 100% of the harvest. While he was thinking, a clamor came from the courtyard outside. This was Cheng Gengsheng's Xiashan villa. Usually, there would not be such a ruckus. Jiang Wang pushed open the door doubtfully. From afar, he heard the voice of Cheng Gengsheng's uncle, the eldest son of the Marquis of Baoang, Cheng Xianmingguang. These orphans and widows came to our door. We Zhenggenjia could not ignore them. Where is little Sheng? Where is he? Tell him to come out. Can our Marquis of Boang's mansion be criticized behind our backs? If one ignored his ability and virtue, Cheng Xianmingguang really had a dignified appearance. He was already very old, and his cultivation base was far behind, but he was still exceptionally elegant. His clothes and accessories were all appropriate, and each strand of his hair was meticulously taken care of. When he spoke at this time, his voice was also mellow, adding a bit of intimacy. If someone unfamiliar with him met him for the first time, it would be very hard not to trust him. When Jiang Wang arrived, he saw a large group of old, weak women and children clustered in the courtyard. The children were crying, the elderly were howling, each one more miserable than the other. The scene was extremely unsightly. Some were shouting that they were hungry, some were crying that they did not want to live anymore, and some were saying that they could not live anymore and would be forced to die, and so on. If someone who did not know the situation saw this scene, they would probably think that Cheng Gongsheng had done something outrageous like digging up graves. Cheng Xianmingguang was standing in the middle of these people, saying that Zheng Genjie will make a decision for you. It was clear that he did not come with good intentions. The two doormen stood on the side with awkward expressions. Obviously, they did not dare to block the eldest son of the Marquis of Baoang. Jiang Wang listened for a while and roughly understood what was happening. After Wang Yiwu was expelled from Linzi City, Yunganzuan's business was divided up. It was inevitable that some people would not rely on either side and lose their livelihood. This was not a problem. Logically speaking, if there was no work to do, they could just find another. How could a living person with hands and feet starve to death in Linzi? Moreover, how many people would dare to find trouble with the Zheng Genjie? There was no need to investigate this matter. It was clear that Cheng Xianmingguang had some ulterior motives. He had gathered the families of these people to force Cheng Gongsheng to give an explanation. It was obvious that he wanted to severely damage Cheng Gongsheng's face and damage his reputation. This trick was extremely shallow. However, looking at Cheng Xianmingguang's appearance, it was clear that he was very pleased with himself and thought that he was in control of the situation. When Jiang Wang went out, he was still a little worried about what had happened. When he saw Cheng Xianmingguang, he was already relieved. Looking at the chaotic situation, he even wanted to laugh. How hard would it be to deal with such a small problem? Cheng Gongsheng's mood was clearly similar. He angrily squeezed into the courtyard from another door. When he saw his uncle, his face was immediately full of smiles. Uncle is a busy person. Who knows how many times you have to pay your respects? How come you have the time to come to my Shashan villa today? Cheng Gongsheng's words were vaguely sarcastic, implying that Cheng Xianmingguang did not have anything important to do apart from making Cheng Xian and Yunbua happy. However, Cheng Xianmingguang did not understand. Instead, he looked at his chubby nephew with a serious face and said earnestly, "Ah Sheng, this matter can be big or small. You have to deal with it properly. Uncle also does not want to deal with it. However, you juniors are too troublesome. It's not that Uncle wants to scold you, but those businesses were doing well. How can you just tear them down? If you tear them down, then so be it. Uncle will not say anything if you young people fight over them. However, how can you not give him a way out? In the future, who will listen to you? Who will trust Zheng Genjie?" Cheng Xianmingguang was not good at other things, but his words were really beautiful. It was probably related to his habit of socializing since childhood. Uncle's lecture is right. Cheng Gongsheng was not the least bit annoyed. He said with a smile, "I wonder what these people want to force me to do by gathering here today." He stood there like a small mountain. "Go ahead and say it." His voice was also light. However, as soon as he said this, the entire courtyard, the cries, noises, and shouts suddenly quieted down. Cheng Xingongzi was so awe-inspiring. Chapter 809. By now, there was no need to introduce Cheng Gongsheng in Linzi. Even the stupidest person would know the difference between the weight of Cheng Gongsheng's words and that of Cheng Xianmingguang's. They both had the surname Cheng Xian, but Cheng Xianmingguang had no right to represent Zheng Genjie. At this moment, although Cheng Gongsheng was smiling brightly and speaking gently, the word force was not something these old and weak women and children could bear. Not many people in Linzi could bear it. Even if Cheng Xianmingguang promised more benefits, it would not work. "Ah Sheng, you are in the wrong. How can you say that others are forcing you?" Cheng Xianmingguang immediately jumped out to flaunt his seniority. "They can't live anymore. Don't we have to take responsibility?" He was stupid, But he was also smart and knew how to disgust others. He was smart, but he was really stupid. Disgust was also wrong. These people came to the Sunset Mountain Villa to cry and make a scene. It was not just Chung Gungsheng's reputation that was tarnished. To put it more seriously, they were splashing dirty water on Chung Xianmingwang's name. The scene of them crying and making a scene at the Sunset Mountain Villa was a provocation to all those who wanted to divide up Yung Gunzuan's business. But no matter what, this was a father's effort and struggle for his son who was cultivating in seclusion in Jixia Academy. Seeing that Chung Gungsheng's momentum was getting better and better, and that he had obtained the top-notch divine ability lawful embodiment of heaven and earth, Chung Xianmingwang was very worried that Yung Gunzuan's position as the family head would be settled before he left Jixia Academy. Perhaps it would be good for Yung Gunzuan if he did nothing. He trusted his son and was very proud of Yung Gunzuan. But he obviously did not know how terrifying Yung Gunzuan was. Just this name alone was enough for people to wait. The outcome was far from certain. He didn't know anything. Perhaps he even thought that Yung Gunzuan was the center of attention because of him as his father. Uncle is right. I should be responsible. Our Zhenggenjia will definitely take responsibility. Chung Gungsheng was respectful to Chung Xianmingwang. He had no reason to be disrespectful to his uncle. He even hoped that his uncle would be happy and live a long life. However, let's put this matter aside for now. Please allow me to deal with some family matters first. He turned around and looked at the two doormen with a calm expression. What are your duties? The two of them looked at each other in dismay. In the end, they did not dare to not answer. Trembling with fear, they said, to guard the door for the young master. Have you done it? Chung Gungsheng asked calmly. His voice was not loud, but it was like a mountain pressing down on him. The two doormen were embarrassed. Their faces turned ashen as they knelt on the ground. One of them explained, Sir insisted on bringing them in. We didn't dare to stop you. You don't have to explain to me. Chung Gungsheng waved his hand. Our Zhenggenjia has fought for merits on the battlefield for generations. Governing the family is like governing the army. You did your duty, but you dare to let them in without even informing me. How can I hand them over to you? Go to the backyard to receive your punishment. Yes. The two doormen left with fear on their faces. Chung Xianmingwang originally came to make trouble. However, for some reason, when he saw his fat nephew's attitude, he forgot how to speak. This little fatty seemed to have really grown up. He thought, in a trance, for a moment, he seemed to have seen Ming Tu forget it. He suddenly became dispirited. He was about to take them away and let his fat nephew off the hook. However, he heard Chung Gungsheng say, this matter is easy to deal with. Easy to deal with? Chung Xianmingwang was angry again. This was a scheme that he had racked his brains to come up with. How could this little fatty dare to look down on it? Tell me. He put on a stern face and squeezed out a dignified look. If it's not fair, Uncle won't listen to you. Chung Gungsheng smiled. Well said. Ah. Screams sounded from the backyard. It must be the two doormen who were being tortured. The screams were so painful that it made people's teeth ache. Chung Xianmingwang's eyelids twitched, not to mention the group of people he had brought over. Each of them had a panicked expression. Everyone. Chung Gungsheng was not affected by the screams at all. He looked at the old, weak, women, and children that Chung Xianmingwang brought over. His expression was as usual. It's my negligence that you are in such a difficult situation. There will be an explanation for this matter. Guards. A man in black came in indifferently and stood at his side. Record them one by one. Their surnames, their names, whose family they are, and who they feel injustice for. Don't leave out a single one. The screams in the backyard continued, but it did not affect Chung Gungsheng's order. Especially the man in black, who was Chung Gungsheng's shadow guard. He glanced at them as if he was looking at a dead person. He did not look like a clerk, but more like an assassin. Ah Sheng. Hearing the screams, Chung Xianmingwang could not help but say, you can't blame the doorman. It was Uncle who wanted to enter the mansion. How could they stop him? Even if you were guarding the door, you couldn't stop Uncle. Uncle is right. Chung Gungsheng smiled brightly. For Uncle's sake, I won't kill them today. These words sent chills down everyone's spines. Jungenjia's rules were so strict? Just because they did not guard the door and did not stop Master Chongxian, they were going to be beheaded? Was it because of Master Zhongshuan that he was beaten so miserably? While the people in the yard were trembling with fear, Chung Gung Sheng looked at them again. He was still smiling, but he gave people a feeling of coldness. Don't crowd and fight. Cooperate with the recording. I will answer you one by one. I will not miss a single one. Each family will be given 100 taels of silver. I will send it to your door to help you get through this difficult time. Oh, look at my memory. An old man seemed to suddenly come back to his senses. I forgot to harvest the millets. I'm getting old. I have to go back and take a look. As he spoke, he turned around and walked quickly to the door. He did not know where the millets would come from on this spring day. What a joke. If this cruel and merciless fat young master recorded their names, how could they get any benefits in the future? They were afraid that they would not have the life to spend the money, even if they had the money. Little darling, don't you want to eat the candy figurines? Let's go quickly. If we are late, I'm afraid the stall will have to be closed. An ant carried a child and trotted away. All of a sudden, everyone in the courtyard had all sorts of strange reasons to run out of the courtyard, as if they were fleeing. Chung Gung Sheng could not stop them from behind. Hey, don't go, don't go. I will give you the money on behalf of the Jungenjia. He even stomped his feet. If you leave like this, how can I explain it to my righteous uncle? No matter how naive Chongxian Mingguang was, he realized how ridiculous he was at this moment. His face became very ugly. Chung Gung Sheng's expression slowly calmed down as the crowd dispersed. He looked at the empty yard and ordered calmly, "Follow them. Find out who they are, where they live, and whose family they are." The shadow guards who belonged to him received the order and left. Chongxian Mingguang suddenly became angry. What do you want to do? They were all found by me. Do you want to get to the bottom of it? If you want to be ruthless, why don't you come at your uncle? Otherwise, why would he be called an embroidered pillow? He was just angry and did not even know how to hide it. Uncle. Chung Gung Sheng's attitude was still respectful. Don't be angry. I don't want to do anything to them. I really want to settle them down properly. How can the reputation of the Jungenjia be ignored? He sighed. You are stained with yellow mud. It is my duty to wash my pants. Chongxian Mingguang was stunned for a moment. Chung Gung Sheng said again, how about we go inside and have a cup of tea? You can also think about how to explain it to grandfather. Chongxian Mingguang's eyes narrowed. He tried to appear fierce, but was weak at heart. What do I have to explain? About what happened just now. Chung Gung Sheng was still smiling. I have already ordered someone to tell him. Since uncle is so filial, he won't hide the family matters from grandfather, right? Chongxian Mingguang had always been a tattletale. He was giving him a taste of his own medicine. You. Chongxian Mingguang pointed at him for a long time. In the end, he could not come up with a reason. He swung his sleeves and left angrily. Jiang Wang, who had silently watched this boring farce, shook his head and went back to his room. When he left the courtyard, he heard Chung Gung Sheng's sincere sigh. I really hope that Brother Zun can inherit some of my uncle's talent and wisdom. This person from the Huamu Alliance rarely appears. I wonder who he is. Oh. Also, the public nickname of the same name. Why is this so? I have put up a chi map. Everyone can go and take a look. I hope this sentence will not be censored. Chapter 810. After exiting the great illusionary land, Jiang Wang had reached the 71st rank of the inner mansion in the sword discourse arena. Soon, he would be able to fight Zhuo Guangshu again in the sword discourse arena. With his current spiritual power, exploring the inner mansion was even faster. He had reached the 300th rank in the second inner mansion. He had found 2 hidden treasures, but they were not to his liking, so Jiang Wang let them go easily. Another way to increase his strength in a short time was to engrave the instant cast Taoist technique in the second inner mansion. Every inner mansion only had one chance to engrave the instant cast Taoist technique. Most powerhouses would not choose a Taoist technique that was mastered by too many people. In this kind of choice, rare was better than powerful, because no matter how powerful a Taoist technique was, As long as it was studied enough, there was a possibility of cracking it. When Jiang Wang condensed the big and small circulatory cycles in the Tongtian Palace, he engraved the flame flower and the 5 qi binding tiger. One was given to him by Dong A, and the other was given to him by Cheng Gung Sheng. At that time, he did not have many resources. When he encountered high-quality Taoist techniques, he had no room to be picky. But later, Jiang Wang grew quickly. He became strong and solid, and slowly gained the right to be picky. There is a saying in the cultivation world, every time you open a mansion, it is like opening a palace. In addition to increasing the human body's power source, every time you open an inner mansion, you could engrave another instant cast Taoist technique. When Jiang Wang was in the first inner mansion, he carefully chose the rotten wood technique. This was a very targeted Taoist technique. The choice of Taoist technique in the second inner mansion was naturally very important. Some Taoist techniques could be used to shorten the activation time as much as possible after thorough research. But even if it was within a breath, it was still not as good as instant cast. When powerhouses fought, life and death were often decided in an instant. But a valuable and rare Taoist technique could only be found by chance. In addition to diligent cultivation, Jiang Wang had also repeatedly studied the method to save Zhu Biqiong with Cheng Gung Sheng. They made many plans and made many preparations, but he could not make the final decision without going to the offshore islands to observe them. Early in the morning, Cheng Gung Sheng happily called Jiang Wang outside the door. "Brother Wang, someone is looking for you." Jiang Wang stopped exploring the inner mansion and asked as he walked out, "Who is it?" Cheng Gung Sheng's voice was mischievous. Jiang Wang opened the door and saw 3 people standing outside the door. The fat Zhong Xian Sheng, the black-armored 14. Lin Yuxi with a green headscarf on his head. Jiang Wang immediately wanted to close the door. Now that he saw this green card, he had a headache. "Lord Jiang." She actually greeted him in a rather enthusiastic manner. "TSK, TSDSK. Zhongshuan Sheng said sarcastically from the side. "I couldn't tell, little Jiang. You're such a spendthrift. When did you know each other?" "2s to do 2s." Unfortunately, his 14 eyes looked straight ahead, and under the cover of his black helmet, his expression could not be seen. Lin Yuxi smiled and looked at Zhong Xian Sheng. His expression was very calm. "Young Master Zhong Xian, our relationship is purely that of colleagues." Jiang Wang was afraid that Cheng Gung Sheng would say something stupid and bring trouble to himself. Zheng Xiaoming had reminded him that Lin Yuxi was not someone to be trifled with. So he quickly said, "Constable Lin, what brings you here so early in the morning?" "Sir." Lin Yuxi cupped his hands. "Have you forgotten your mission?" She reminded the Golden Needle clan. Jiang Wang had a bad feeling. "I know what I'm doing. I'll be leaving soon. This has nothing to do with Constable Lin, right?" "Why not?" Lin Yuxi smiled brightly, showing his white teeth. "Sir Jiang and I are in charge of this case." "How come I don't know about this?" Lin Yuxi smiled and took out a piece of paper. "This is the seal of the inspection office in the capital. It has the seal of the commandant of the Northern Yamen. Sir Jiang, you can check it." "Let me see." Cheng Gung Sheng suddenly reached out his fat hand. Of course, he would not be as confused as Jiang Wang was worried about. In fact, when Lin Yuxi came to visit, he had already sent someone to investigate. Now, he was joking around because he did not want this woman to affect Jiang Wang's trip to the offshore islands. Lin Yuxi did not avoid it and let him take the seal. He smiled and said, "Child Chongxian, destroying official documents is a serious crime. Also, I can have as many of these documents as I want. Constable Lin, don't worry. I'm always careful." Cheng Gung Sheng was not embarrassed when his thoughts were exposed. He even smiled. He looked at it seriously and then handed it to Jiang Wang. "It seems to be true." Of course it was true. With Lin Yuxi's background, which made Zheng Xiaoming afraid, it was not difficult for him to get such an official document. However, as the person who was pestered, Jiang Wang could not help but feel helpless. "I can do it myself," he said. "Sir Jiang, you are a genius. Of course you can do it. Even the king of hell can't escape your eyes, let alone a traitor of the Golden Needle cult. Lin Yuxi said with certainty, I'm just following and learning. Jiang Wang really regretted taking the credit of tracking the King of Hell. It was King Qingguang and King Chujiang. Why did he bother? Now that Lin Yuxi had found something to talk about, he often used it as an excuse. This is the first blue metal mission that I'm facing alone. Can you let me handle it myself? Jiang Wang's tone was a little soft. He really did not want to get along with a shrewd blue metal arrester like Lin Yuxi. He would not be too happy if his secrets were dug out. But Lin Yuxi just smiled and did not answer at all. I've been waiting for a few days. Seeing that you haven't moved, I came to ask. Of course, you have your own ideas. I can set off at any time. I'll definitely learn from you. Can't come to an agreement. Jiang Wang was having a headache. He still could not figure out how he was targeted by Lin Yuxi. Cough. Chung Gung Sheng coughed lightly. Brother Jiang Wang, it's inevitable to go to places with complicated information when handling cases. For example, House of Red Sleeves, Tinshan Cloud Pavilion, and so on. You may have to go there to collect information. Sometimes, it's more convenient to be alone. He was giving Jiang Wang an idea. Jiang Wang wanted to use brothels and other places to make Lin Yuxi retreat. It's okay. Before Jiang Wang could say anything, Lin Yuxi had already taken over the topic with a smile. I've been handling cases for many years. Where haven't I been? What haven't I seen? Lord Jiang, go ahead and ask for information. She deliberately emphasized the word, ask for information. I'll just learn from you. This blue metal woman was stubborn and seemed to be more knowledgeable than Jiang Wang. Jiang Wang knew that he could not avoid it. He could not help but sigh. Are you sure you want to go with me? If it's my duty, I won't shirk. Lin Yuxi pointed out. Jiang Wang stared at her for a while and made a decision. Good. There's no time like the present. Let's set off today. Anyway, they had already discussed what needed to be discussed and prepared what needed to be prepared. There was no need to wait in Linzi. Lin Yuxi just smiled and was not afraid at all. Yes, sir. Chung Gung Sheng looked at 14 and found that 14 was also looking at him. In the end, he said nothing. He believed in Jiang Wang's decision, just as Jiang Wang believed that he could handle the rest. On the last day of February, the Chi's rank 4 Blue Metal Jiang Wang set off to the offshore islands to handle the case of the Golden Needle sect. His companion was rank 5 Blue Metal Arrester Lin Yuxi. Chapter 811. The sea is full of ups and downs, and the road ahead is full of ups and downs. I know that. Lin Yuxi spoke seriously in the carriage with the seal of the city's inspector office. If something happens to me, no matter how sudden the process is, I have 10,000 ways to leave behind the truth. You know, my family has been blue metal constables for several generations. It's inevitable that I have some unknown methods. Jiang Wang, who was resting with his eyes closed, opened his eyes helplessly. Constable Lin, you think too much. You and I have no grudges. I wouldn't do such a thing. Lin Yuxi smiled. We have no grudges now, but who knows what will happen in the future. I'm just taking precautions. This kind of polite smile that couldn't be picked out was sometimes quite annoying. Jiang Wang was silent for a while and said, I hope you don't have any grudges. Lin Yuxi's attitude was very good. He admitted defeat anytime and anywhere. Of course, I hope so too. Actually, you don't have to stare at me like this. There's so many people with ulterior motives in the world. There's so many secrets waiting for you to discover. Jiang Wang said earnestly. You're just wasting your time on me. Sir, what are you talking about? Lin Yuxi blinked. I'm only following you on this trip to learn from you. Jiang Wang said seriously. I'm not a bad person. Of course, I believe you. Lin Yuxi said half-heartedly. Seeing Jiang Wang's expression, he couldn't help but say, a good person doesn't necessarily not do bad things. Who's going to judge whether it's a good thing or a bad thing? Jiang Wang asked. Lin Yuxi's expression was very serious. We blue metal constables only follow the law. We don't judge whether it's good or bad. Jiang Wang stared at her for a while. In the female blue metal constable's eyes, he saw a kind of extraordinary determination. Do as you wish. Finally, he gave up. He leaned against the side of the carriage and closed his eyes again. The horse's hooves clattered as the carriage drove away. The shortest route from Lindsay to the offshore islands was to pass through Biwu County and head out to sea through Linhai County. Jiang Wang was no stranger to Linhai County. When he first came to Qi, he had been to Linhai County. Tianfu City, which controlled the Tianfu secret realm, was located in this county. The mysterious and terrifying leader of the Night Watchmen had also slain a Yama from the gates of hell in Linhai County. The county had always been at the forefront of communication with the offshore islands. Therefore, Jiang Wang had been wondering why this county was not heavily guarded and why the King of Hell would use this place as a breakthrough point. After learning about the oceanic race, he finally had an answer. If Qi stationed troops in Linhai Prefecture, it would definitely raise the alarm of the fishing house. Under the premise that both sides needed to work together to fight against the sea race, internal friction was not desirable. In comparison, stationing troops on an island managed by the state of Qi was a much more cost-effective choice. Linhai County, on the other hand, was open and tolerant. This could be seen from the name of the county. For example, before the annexation of the Yang country, the western counties of Qi were called Dingyao and Pingxi. As the Yang country was once very strong, Qi needed to be wary of them. For example, the southern county was called Shimin. What was a door? Naturally, it had the intention to be wary and resist. As for the coastal counties, they were called Linhai. There was only one word, Lin, and it was not aggressive at all. Linhai County had 13 docks, and boats came and went day and night. With the letter from the capital city inspection house, the two blue metal constables easily took the boat out to sea. It was not that they could not fly. Firstly, like the forces on land, the airspace of the islands was restricted. Secondly, Jiang Wang had a mission, and keeping a low profile was the most important thing. The first stop of the two blue metal constables was Haimen Island. Haimen Island was a long and narrow island. It was not the first island after they went out to sea, but it was the first island with a large number of humans. At the same time, it was the largest neutral island near the sea and did not belong to any faction. It was formed under the tacit agreement of Qi and the Sea Fishing Tower. The reason why it was called Haimen was that it was the last gate of the human race facing the sea. In the past, cultivators went all the way back from Haimen Island. Finally, they drove the sea race back and re-established the defense line in the bewildering world. Jiang Wang originally wanted to go directly to the island operated by the Zhenggenjia. He wanted to visit Cheng Gengsheng's uncle, Cheng Xianmingyi, and ask for the help of the Zhenggenjia overseas. But because Lin Yuxi was following him, he stopped at Haimen Island first. He planned to deal with the blue metal task first. With Lin Yuxi there, it was inconvenient for him to do many things about rescuing Zhu Biqiang. Anyway, as long as the case of the Golden Needle cult was over, Lin Yuxi would have no reason to continue following him. At that time, whether he was cold or angry, he would drive away this annoying female constable. Of course, it would be best if he could drive her away before the case was over. How do you plan to do it? Lord Jiang. Walking on the streets of Haimen Island, Lin Yuxi asked aloud. There were shops everywhere on Haimen Island. There were no sects, countries, or forces here. There was only business. This was an island that people who went out to sea would never miss. What do you think, Constable Lin? Jiang Wang asked. Lin Yuxi laughed again. I'm here to learn from Lord Jiang. If you want to learn, then learn with a proper attitude. Jiang Wang scolded with a straight face. Ask less and observe more. In fact, he didn't have a clear idea about the case of the Golden Needle cult. This case was just an excuse for him to go out to sea. His real purpose was the Isle of Huai, and he spent all his energy thinking about Zhu Biqiang. He didn't have time to think about how to pursue Wu Yiyu until now. Of course, as the head of Shangguan, it was reasonable for him to put on airs. How could a subordinate ask the head of Shangguan how to do things? Seeing Jiang Wang put on airs so skillfully, Lin Yuxi's mouth twitched, but he still squeezed out a smile. You're right, Lord Jiang. I've learned my lesson. Go and book a room with me first. It's convenient for you to rest. Jiang Wang ordered naturally. I'll walk around here and observe the situation. Lin Yuxi's eyebrows jumped, but he still only said, okay. Jiang Wang glared at him rudely. Why aren't you doing it? Lin Yuxi grinned. I'll go now. She walked a few steps, then turned back. Lord Jiang, how about the Fuxing Inn on the street up ahead? I heard it's a business of the fishing sea tower. There's no need to worry about safety. Obviously, she was much more familiar with the coastal islands than Jiang Wang. But Jiang Wang just waved his hand impatiently, as if he was shooing away flies. I'm busy with the case. Don't bother me with such a small matter. You decide for yourself. Sorry, Lord Jiang. I've disturbed you. Please continue to observe the situation. Lin Yuxi was still able to smile, turned around, and strode away. Looking at her posture, it was as if she was the winner. But of course, she had forced Jiang Qingyang, who had suppressed Wang Yiwu, to act like a child in a fit of pique. How could it not be her victory? Heh, I can't control you. Looking at Lin Yuxi's back, Jiang Wang first sneered in his heart, but this smugness quickly disappeared without a trace. Walking alone on the streets of Haimen Island, he let out a long sigh. No matter what, no matter how much authority he had. In fact, along the way, he had made things difficult for him, but he still couldn't get rid of Lin Yuxi. Being stared at by such a blue metal arrestor, he didn't dare to move at all. And Zhu Biqiang, how could he save Zhu Biqiang? Chapter 8:12. Just like when he was in Wincy County, Jiang Wang slowly walked through the streets of Haimen Island. Although he had already collected all the information about the offshore islands, he still had to verify everything with his own eyes before he could be slightly relieved. Rescuing Zhu Biqiang was an almost impossible task. It was much more difficult than finding the Qingyun Pavilion. 100 Qingyun pavilions were not as powerful as the sea fishing tower. Therefore, Jiang Wang had to think carefully. He could not let the people who accompanied him suffer losses. Lord Jiang, Lin Yuxi came out of nowhere and said with a smile, I have booked the best room for you. Do you want to go back and rest now, or talk about it later? Jiang Wang did have the idea of getting rid of her halfway and sneaking away, but she always had a way to find him. Until now, he was used to it. Quiet. Jiang Wang suddenly shouted in a low voice. Lin Yuxi did not know what happened. There is something wrong with this street. Jiang Wang's voice was very serious and nervous. Stay calm and don't look around. Lin Yuxi blinked, indicating that she understood. She carefully observed the left and right. When she came, she roughly looked around. With her many years of experience, this street should be very normal. She really did not see any problems. However, Jiang Wang was so nervous that she could not help but wonder if she had missed something. Jiang Wang walked forward slowly with a calm face. He only moved his lips slightly and sent his voice to Lin Yuxi's ears. Now, let's go separately. I will go directly to the inn. You stay and observe carefully. Don't alert the other party. Pay attention to the master of the jade shop behind you on the left and the big man sitting by the window drinking in front of you on the right. According to my observation, they are likely to be related to Wu Yu. Lin Yuxi kept her expression calm, but her voice could not hide her surprise. Lord Jiang found clues so quickly. In fact, she thought that Jiang Wang was really looking for clues. According to her observation, Jiang Wang did not care about the golden needle case at all. He obviously came to the offshore islands for other purposes. Probably the only problem he was thinking about was how to get rid of her. Don't talk nonsense when you're on duty, Jiang Wang replied impatiently. Let's stagger now, so that no one can see the problem. I'll go back to the inn and wait for your news. By the way, which room did you book? Lin Yuxi answered honestly, number A3. The registered name is Xiaomu. Sure, Jiang Wang replied casually. Next time, remember to use Zhang Lin Chuan. Lin Yuxi was completely confused. Just do as I say. In the end, Jiang Wang nodded deeply and left on his own. Lin Yuxi was left alone on the nameless street of Haimen Island. He walked round and round, observing the two people who had nothing to do with him at all. When Lin Yuxi angrily returned to the Lucky Star Inn and knocked on the door, Jiang Wang had just finished his cultivation. He opened the door and saw Lin Yuxi's gloomy face. Lord Jiang, I've checked carefully. Those two people have nothing to do with Wu Yu at all. She was indignant. Jiang Wang stretched himself and said casually, "Oh, really? Did you check carefully? Is there any possibility of a mistake?" Lin Yuxi gritted his teeth and said, "I swear on the reputation of the blue metal of the Lin family for generations. There is no mistake." "Okay, thank you for your hard work." Jiang Wang nodded with relief. "Go back and rest." Lin Yuxi opened his eyes wide. That's it? His unqualified guess caused the blue metal to waste a lot of energy, but the result was completely unrelated to the case. Jiang Wang only said such a sentence and didn't even reflect on himself. "Lord Jiang," Lin Yuxi gritted his teeth. "Are you walking a monkey? How can you say that?" Jiang Wang was very dissatisfied. "How can you talk about a monkey like that?" Lin Yuxi took a deep breath and was the first to calm down. "Lord Jiang, you are wearing the State of Cheese Green badge for handling cases. You are not fooling around on this trip. You are shouldering responsibility and carrying out your mission. I'm your teammate, not your enemy. This is the premise of this trip. I hope you won't let your emotions affect your decisions." Jiang Wang was also very calm. "Let me ask you, what is your task at sea this time?" "To help you catch Wu Yu," Lin Yuxi said. "You're assisting me. Assisting me to catch Wu Yu. It's written clearly on the seal. Your duty. Can you remember it? If you eliminate the wrong answer, won't you be getting closer to the correct answer?" Jiang Wang waved his hand impatiently. "Go and check the people in the guest room downstairs. They keep making strange sounds. I suspect they're also involved in the case." Lin Yuxi. She swallowed her anger and looked at Jiang Wang. "You said before that you're not a bad person." Jiang Wang looked at her without flinching. "You also said that good people also do bad things." She had to hold it in. She had to hold it in. Lin Yuxi repeatedly told herself to hold it in. She took a deep breath. "I understand." She looked at Jiang Wang. "Then I'll take my leave first." "You may leave." Jiang Wang was still very hateful and indifferent. He waved his hand perfunctorily and coldly closed the door. He rarely tormented people like this. He hoped that Lin Yuxi would leave in a hurry. It turned out that Jiang Wang had underestimated Lin Yuxi's tenacity and her ability. Early the next morning, Lin Yuxi knocked on the door again. Jiang Wang rested enough and opened the door energetically. In a state where he was fully prepared to welcome a new challenge, he smiled and said, "Arrestor Lin, how's the investigation going?" Lin Yuxi also smiled. "I didn't go." "Oh." Jiang Wang frowned. "Are you going to disobey my orders?" "Constable Lin, we're all working for Dachi. It's our duty to do so. If you have this attitude, I'll have no choice but to send you back to Chi. You can't order me around anymore, Lord Jiang." Lin Yuxi took out an iron plate and waved it in front of Jiang Wang. "I was lucky enough to be promoted last night. Do you see this? I'm a deputy inspector of the Capital Inspection Office. I'm a civil servant of the 4th rank." She noticed Jiang Wang's expression and smiled with satisfaction. "Lord Jiang, we're on the same level now." The Capital Inspection Officer, Zheng Shi, was only a 4th rank official. Of course, he had more power than many 3rd rank officials. Zheng Shi was also the deputy inspector of the Capital Inspection Office. It was obvious that he was the deputy inspector of the Capital Inspection Office. This official position didn't have any core power. It was usually just a title. However, it was very suitable for this situation. It allowed Lin Yuxi, a 5th rank blue metal constable, to be on the same level as Jiang Wang. Jiang Wang couldn't order her around like he did yesterday and force her to leave. This was because the blue metal constable's rank was lower than other officials of the same rank. A 4th rank blue metal constable was on the same level as a 4th rank deputy inspector of the Capital Inspection Office. There was no need to verify the authenticity of this iron plate. What made people secretly shocked was that Lin Yuxi only took one night to solve this matter. Of course, there was still internal supervision in the Capital Inspection Office. Otherwise, Lin Yuxi would have directly warned a 4th rank blue metal constable. She didn't have enough merits and strength. Therefore, she could only work from the deputy inspector of the Capital Inspection Office. Jiang Wang sneered. Nepotism disgusting. Lin Yuxi didn't feel offended at all. She laughed and said, yes. Someone actually got a 4th-rank blue medal constable without solving a case. If this isn't going through the back door, how can it be justified? He's really shameless. Lord Jiang, tell me, isn't this kind of person hateful? He's really despicable. Jiang Wang stepped sideways to let him in and said with a serious face, Deputy Chief Patrol Inspector, please come in quickly. Regarding the traitor of the Golden Needle cult, Wu Yu, I happen to have some ideas on how to handle the case. Let's discuss them. Chapter 8:13. Lin Yuxi sat down at the table, as if he did not care about the previous difficulties. He smiled and said, Sir Jiang, if you have any ideas on how to solve the case, please tell me. I can learn from them. Jiang Wang also smiled and took out a thin book from his storage box. He placed it in front of Lin Yuxi and said, I have racked my brains for this case, so I naturally have some ideas. Here is a document from the Golden Needle sect. Has Constable Lin looked at it carefully? The adversity surmounting Golden Needle was the foundation of the Golden Needle sect. It had always been passed down to the sect leader. After Wu Qiji successfully returned from the 7 Stars Mystery Realm, he was confirmed as the next sect leader of the Golden Needle sect. Wu Yu had no hope of becoming the sect leader. In a fit of anger, he attacked the sect leader. Wu Yu stole the adversity surmounting Golden Needle technique and escaped overseas. The 3 secret techniques required specific herbs to be refined. The Golden Needle sect's report had related records. From this, it could be seen how much Qi and the other sects trusted Qi Ting. After all, if they knew the herbs, they would be able to deduce the secret techniques. Of course, it could also be that the Golden Needle sect hated Wu Yu so much that they did not even care about keeping the sect's secret techniques a secret in order to bring him to justice. Among these herbs, there were a few that were quite rare, such as Qing Linghua, Chui Fong Luo, and Xiu Jiaobai. In the entire offshore islands herb market, there might not be many transactions in a year. Starting from the flow of these herbs, there was a high chance of finding Wu Yu's traces. Wu Yu stole the adversity surmounting Golden Needle technique, so it was impossible that he did not learn the 3 secret techniques. Of course, it would be more convenient to ask Cheng Gongsheng or Jiang Wuyo to send people to do this. He only needed to arrest the person after he found him. However, now that Lin Yuxi was beside him, he had to show his methods. Lin Yuxi took the book and flipped through it. He had already guessed Jiang Wang's idea and could not help but chuckle. Constable Lin, do you have a different opinion? Jiang Wang raised his eyebrows and asked. No. Lin Yuxi was still smiling. Constable Jiang, you think of something that no one has thought of. This method is simply amazing. The sarcasm almost overflowed from his words. Jiang Wang was very dissatisfied. If you have something to say, just say it. Why are you being so sarcastic? I only have one question. Lin Yuxi tapped the table with his index finger. If Lord Jiang can think of such a simple problem, how come will you not think of it? When it comes to buying medicinal herbs, he can just give a beggar some money to buy it for him. Where are you going to find clues? This female arrester was not as magnanimous and forgiving as she appeared to be. She did not seem to mind at all. She smiled and let go of all enmity. But whenever he had the chance, he would mock Jiang Wang. Both in and out of their words, they began to despise Jiang Wang's brain. What did he mean by Lord Jiang being able to think of it? Jiang Wang indeed didn't take this matter to heart before. It was just that he came up with an idea on the spur of the moment after coming to the island. He didn't think it through carefully, so it was inevitable that there would be some loopholes. But at this moment, he only sneered, Constable Lin, if you can think of it, how can I not? When you were running around like a headless fly in vain, I already looked into it. Our Lord Jiang was calm and certain. Qing Linghua and Xiu Jiao by his side. There was a transaction a few days ago, so it was difficult to trace the clues. But in the past year, there has been no jade, fragrant vine in the coastal islands. Wu Yu had just obtained the Adversity Surmounting Golden Needle Manual, so he had no time to prepare. As long as I take out a jade fragrant vine, he definitely won't miss it. At that time, whether he comes in disguise or asks someone to buy it for him, we can follow the vine to find a melon. Are you afraid that we won't be able to catch him? In fact, Jiang Wang was just being cautious. When he was observing on the island, in order to fool Lin Yuxi, he habitually checked the flow of medicinal herbs. And now, when he was being mocked by Lin Yuxi, he suddenly thought of a way to fix the loophole. But he still acted like he had the pearl of wisdom in his hands, as if he was already prepared and waiting for Lin Yuxi to jump up and take a beating. Jiang Wang's words, especially the part where he said she was running around like a headless fly, were really infuriating. I ran around in vain. Wasn't it because you blindly directed me and deliberately made things difficult for me? Lin Yuxi secretly ground his teeth, but he still had a smile on his face. Since Lord Jiang already has a plan, let's just act according to it. What else is there to discuss? Jiang Wang also pretended to smile. Deputy Envoy Lin, do you think I'm someone who takes credit? This case is jointly handled by us, so it can't only be my credit. Like this, I've already decided on a plan and am in control of the overall situation. Now, everything is ready, except for the jade fragrant vine. Deputy Envoy Lin will be in charge of this jade fragrant vine. Lin Yuxi was stunned. Not to mention this Lord Jiang's face that had changed from arrogance to deference. Just based on the plan itself, although it could be considered to be targeted, it wasn't that amazing. It was nothing more than attacking the enemy and saving them. The most important thing was that rare jade fragrant vine. But Jiang Wang actually pushed this matter to her without any shame. She really wanted to ask, Lord Jiang, are you going out to sea to handle this case just to say something? But when she thought about it, she was also the one who insisted on coming over to handle this case. She really didn't know how to vent her anger. She also had her own reasons for coming over. In the end, she couldn't just leave in a huff. After a moment of silence, Lin Yuxi finally said, I can prepare this jade fragrant vine, but I don't know what Lord Jiang is willing to do for it. What do I have to do? Jiang Wang said righteously. We were the blue metal and serve the public wholeheartedly. All of our efforts are for the sake of handling this case. Do we have to get something in return? Lord Jiang, you don't have to say these words. You and I are both well aware of it. Lin Yuxi looked at him and said, since you don't want to be bothered by me, then I won't beat around the bush with you. I will prepare the jade fragrant vine for you in 2 days, but you have to promise me one thing. Jiang Wang maintained his vigilance. What is it? You have to tell me all of your interactions with Zhang Yong, bit by bit. Other than that, you don't have to pay anything. Sure enough, he was targeting Zhang Yong. Jiang Wang almost immediately thought of the pair of pleading eyes he saw on Yunwu Mountain. He didn't know who Zhang Yong was. He also didn't know what Zhang Yong wanted to do. At that time, he was just inexplicably soft-hearted and didn't expose her. Then, should he expose her now? At that time, he didn't say a word. But wasn't that silence also a kind of silent promise? Jiang Wang didn't intend to break his promise. But Lin Yuxi's question also had a hidden trap. If he agreed to talk about all of his interactions with Zhang Yong, then Zhang Yong would be exposed. If he directly refused, then Lin Yuxi could conclude that he definitely knew something and that there was definitely something wrong with Zhang Yong. You're not afraid that I'm lying? Jiang Wang asked. Lin Yuxi looked at him and said, I will judge whether it's true or not. Besides, Jiang Xingyang is a man of his word. I trust him. She spoke so confidently, but after this period of interaction, Jiang Wang knew very well that she only believed in her own judgment and believed that Jiang Wang couldn't lie to her. This seemingly peaceful blue metal constable was actually a very stubborn person with an extremely strong sense of self. Jiang Wang shook his head. But I really have nothing to say. I don't want to take advantage of your condition for free. Money can't buy my happiness. Lin Yuxi laughed. I'm happy. How about it? Deal? If there's something wrong with Zhang Yong, you should investigate Zhang Yong, track him, and investigate the people close to him, instead of pestering me. Jiang Wang said seriously. We just happened to come out of the heaven's secret territory and said a few words to each other. If you must suspect, then Li Longchuan, Su Xiangqian, and Wang Yiwu should also be suspected. Why don't you ask them? It wasn't good to ask Li Longchuan and Wang Yiwu. The former was heroic and arrogant, while the latter was domineering and arrogant. If he pestered them, he might cause trouble. Su Xiangqian was also famous for his mischievous personality. Everything depended on his mood. When he was in a bad mood, he wouldn't give face to anyone. There was also Cheng Sheng, who hadn't been mentioned yet. If he wanted to trick Cheng Sheng, he might as well go to Wang Yiwu. Maybe if he took a few punches, Wang Yiwu would say something. In fact, among the winners of the Heaven's Secret Realm, Jiang Wang had the best temper and was the easiest to pester. However, this wasn't the reason why Lin Yuxi went to Jiang Wang. She was silent for a while before saying, Zhang Yong is now a member of the Longevity Palace. Without certain evidence, I can't investigate him. You shouldn't suspect without evidence. It's easy to wrongly accuse a good person, Jiang Wang said meaningfully. Then let's change the way we deal. Lin Yuxi gave up easily this time. He shook his head and said, we can forget about Zhang Yong's matter, but you need to tell me. What's your purpose in coming to the Near Sea Islands? She asked very seriously, as if this matter was as important as Zhang Yong's matter. You seem to be very curious about me, Jiang Wang asked. Maybe it's because of your talent in handling cases? You, Jiang Qingyang, look like you could do big things. Lin Yuxi smiled. So, are you willing to tell me? Jiang Wang's mouth twitched. What other purpose could there be? Handling cases, of course. Lin Yuxi stood up. Then the deal is off. Chui Fong Luo, think of a way yourself. Before you catch Wu Yu, I will follow you. Lord Jiang, this is your choice. Wait. Jiang Wang had to stop him. I can tell you, but you have to keep a secret. You can't tell anyone else. This matter is very important to me. Lin Yuxi stopped walking and looked at Jiang Wang. Of course, this was Lin Yuxi, whose family had won the blue medal for several generations. Once he was suspicious, there was no way to hide it. Jiang Wang wanted to make such a big fuss in the Near Sea Islands. Even if it was just the preliminary preparations, there would be a lot of clues. He did not doubt that Lin Yuxi could find out. And with his style of doing things, no matter what, he would not get close to any forces other than she. Jiang Wang thought clearly and sighed. I want to save someone at the Sea Festival in the Fishing Sea Tower. Lin Yuxi shook his head and smiled. I trust Lord Jiang, but Lord Jiang seems to be joking with me. Her tone became unhappy. Always joking, but Jiang Wang's expression was very serious. I won't joke about my friend's safety. His eyes were so clean, bright, and firm. Lin Yuxi stopped smiling and softened his tone. Then, I understand. Chapter 814. Cheng Sheng and Jiang Wuyo were still in Linzi. They were busy with their own affairs. When they went out to sea, it was time to open the dice and see who was the winner. The Zhonggenjia had 2 islands at sea. One was Neverwinter Island, which they had operated for many years, and the other was Chongji Island, which they had obtained from the Tian family of days after exchanging resources. Of course, the latter only had the right to develop for 10 years. Neverwinter Island was not far from Seagate Island. It was about the waist of Seagate Island and was opposite Seagate Island across the water. Chongji Island was further east and was close to Jueming Island, which was Qi's largest garrison island in the offshore islands. Jiang Wang finally arrived at Neverwinter Island first. Lin Yuxi was in charge of finding the Chui Fong vine, but how to let it enter the market normally and let Wu Yu know without leaving a trace was not something that Jiang Wang and Lin Yuxi could do alone. They still needed the help of the forces on the islands near the coast. It had nothing to do with one's combat strength or ability. For Jiang Wang, the Zhonggenjia's power was naturally the best choice. It was also a way to get used to the rescue of Zhu Biqiang. He did not know what Cheng Sheng had done for this, but he had done it. The Zhonggenjia forces on Neverwinter Island would give at least half of their power to support Jiang Wang. It was still spring, but the sun was already scorching on the island. That was how the name Neverwinter came about. Jiang Wang did not meet Chong Xianming. As the leader of the Zhengjinjia overseas, Chong Xianming, he was very busy. It was reasonable that he did not have time to meet a junior. The person who greeted him was a familiar face. It was Chong Xianxian, who had a hooked nose. He and Jiang Wang had argued about the quota for the Heaven's Secret Realm. This person was originally on Yung Genzuan's side and was casually arranged to sabotage Cheng Gongsheng's trip to the Heaven's Secret Territory. However, Cheng Gongsheng resolutely kicked him out and chose to travel with Jiang Wang. Later, Cheng Gongsheng broke through Wang Yiwu's obstruction and successfully won the Heaven's Secret Realm. He was not valued by Yung Genzuan and was afraid of revenge, so he quickly surrendered to Cheng Gongsheng. At that time, Cheng Gongsheng did not have anyone he could use, so he did not refuse anyone. After he rose to prominence, he no longer lacked subordinates. Instead, he became an elder. Nobody knew when he had arrived at Neverwinter Island. Jiang Wang had never paid any attention to him. However, this was probably Cheng Gongsheng's arrangement. With Cheng Gongsheng's shrewdness, he should have made many similar arrangements. If Yung Genzuan could stay in Jixia Academy for 3 to 5 years, the position of the Zhengjinjia family head might not be in doubt. Unfortunately, it was only for a year. Putting these matters aside, when he saw Jiang Wang again this time, Chong Xianxian was extremely enthusiastic. Long time no see. Brother Jiang is still as elegant as ever. Jiang Wang's usual elegant as ever could not be perfunctory. He could only change his words and say, "Young Master Xen is too polite. How can you call me young master? That's too distant." Zhong Xuanxin grumbled affectionately. "You and my brother Sheng are like brothers, which makes you my elder brother as well. Just call me little Xian." "Ah, Xian." Of course, Jiang Wang wasn't that shameless. He couldn't call him little Xian, so he went straight to the point. "I'm here to do something. Did Zhongshuan Sheng tell you about it?" "Yes, he did." Chong Xian patted his chest and said, "I'm ready. If there's anything, just tell me, Brother Jiang." Unlike when they first met in Tianfu City, Jiang Wang was still a nobody with a head of white hair. As a disciple of the Zhengjinjia and with Yung Genzuan's support, of course he could be a little arrogant. However, the current Jiang Wang had defeated Wang Yiwu and crushed Lei Zhanqian. He had become the most dazzling genius of the younger generation in Qi. And Cheng Gongsheng had also made it clear that he was competing with Yung Genzuan for the position of the head of the family. From an impossible substitute role to a stable heir position, it seemed that he had a bigger advantage than Yung Genzuan. Everyone in Linzi City knew that Cheng Gongsheng and Jiang Wang were sworn friends. Now that he was following Cheng Gongsheng, there was no reason for him not to suck up to him. Working on Neverwinter Island was a cushy job. It was easy, free, and had a lot of resources. The local islanders served him in fear and trepidation. In fact, it was far more comfortable than at home. If he had not surrendered early, how could he have gotten this opportunity? With Chong Xianxian's full cooperation, of course, everything was very convenient. Jiang Wang only stayed on Neverwinter Island for 2 hours. He did not have time to appreciate the island before returning to Haimen Island. Lin Yuxi was really resourceful. It only took him a day and a half to get the green jade vine. And through Chong Xianxian, Jiang Wang directly arranged for the green jade vine to participate in a recent singing event on Haimen Island. The reason why he still set the trap on Haimen Island was naturally because it was the most neutral place. In terms of business, it was not much different from the Isle of Wight. For Wu Yu, who was hiding in the dark, it should be the safest place. To lure the snake out of its hole, the snake must not be startled. The organizer of this singing event was actually the Four Seas Business Alliance, not the 100 Treasures Pavilion, which was more influential in the offshore islands. Naturally, it was because of the cooperation between Cheng Gongsheng and the Four Seas Business Alliance. Speaking of which, Jiang Wang only found out when he returned to Linzi that Qing Shi of the Four Seas Business Alliance had obtained a new life-prolonging treasure. He temporarily escaped the crisis of his lifespan and regained control of the business alliance. No one knew how many life-prolonging treasures Qingxi had used, but with the Four Seas Business Alliance's wealth, as long as there was a price, they would be able to afford it. Every few years, there would be rumors that his lifespan was reaching its end. However, he was still alive, although he always looked old. Even Zhong Xiansheng did not know how long this old leader of the Four Seas Commerce Alliance had lived. Some said that he was 120 years old. Some said that he was close to 200 years old. All in all, there were different opinions. What everyone could confirm was that she was the fifth alliance leader of the Four Seas Business Alliance. In his hands, the Four Seas Business Alliance reached its peak, and after so many years, it was the #1 chamber of commerce in the Qi continent. Even if one counted from the time he took over, it had been more than 100 years. At that time, Qingxi was not young anymore. He definitely had not entered the God Ascension realm and had not completely broken through the mortal lifespan. The path of cultivation was filled with difficulties and obstacles. One could not rely on others to push open the heaven and earth gate. To enter the God Ascension realm, one had to confirm one's own Tao to truly be within the area. No matter how many resources one had, it was useless. Qingxi lacked the talent to enter the God Ascension realm, but he was able to rely on treasures to break through the lifespan limit. This could be considered a miracle. One could not help but sigh. As expected, money could be used to reach the God Ascension realm. Surviving the lifespan crisis was not a rare thing for Qingxi, and many people were already used to it. Among the bits and pieces of news about the Four Seas Business Alliance, there was also an inconspicuous matter. It was the deacon Fu Miao, who had one of his ears cut off by Cheng Gongsheng. Before the new year, he had been greatly trusted by Qingxi and had been given many positions, with the possibility of taking over the Four Seas Business Alliance. He was also very eager to take over the position, but unfortunately, a few days before New Year's Eve, when he was out of the country to deal with business, he was accidentally involved in a conflict caused by an evil sect. He was unfortunately killed, and his corpse could not be found until now. There were also rumors that he was plotted against by a competitor in the Four Seas Business Alliance. It was hard to tell whether this was true or false. Because of Fu Miao's identity as a deacon, it caused some discussion, but it did not last for long. To Jiang Wang, these things were just passing by his ears, and he did not pay much attention to them. Back to the singing event on Haimen Island. The jadeite vine was a type of medicinal herb that looked like a pine cone. It was emerald green in color and had a fragrant smell that lingered in the mouth. Burning it could clear one's mind, and eating it could nourish one's vitality. In terms of value, it was not a top-grade medicinal herb. But because it was spoiled and difficult to survive, it was very rare, and thus its price was raised. The coastal islands had frequent sea trade, and there were as many types of goods as there were stars in the sky. But in the past year, there had not been a single transaction for the jadeite vine, which showed how rare it was. But no matter how high the price was, it was not enough to deter a transcendent cultivator like Wu Yu. After all, for an outer building cultivator, he could easily get some resources from somewhere and could afford a jadeite vine. The jadeite vine did not have any value that could help an outer building cultivator. Its significance to Wu Yu was only because of the secret needle technique of the adversity surmounting golden needle. As the #1 chamber of commerce in Qi, the Four Seas Commerce Alliance had a special hall on Haimen Island. This singing event was held in the hall. The entire singing event had 3 days to warm up. The list of items that should appear in this singing event had already been passed to the ears of those who should know. As long as Wu Yu was still in the coastal islands, as long as he did not enter closed-door meditation or something else happened, he would not miss this news. Especially the more people who were hiding, the more they would pay attention to the outside world. Jiang Wang had enough confidence that Wu Yu would not leave the hook. In the hall's private room, 2 blue metal constables from Lindsay sat opposite each other. The atmosphere was neither good nor bad. "I've already arranged it," Jiang Wang said. "Once the buyer of the jadeite vine leaves, I will personally track him down." "Lord Jiang seems to be very confident in your tracking skills." "Oh, that's right. After all, you're an expert who can track down King Qingguang and King Chujiang. You must be an expert in this field." Although Lin Yuxi acknowledged Jiang Wang's purpose in coming to the coastal islands, he still could not change his probing words and the suspicion in his heart. Jiang Wang was very helpless. I was just lucky to have met him those 2 times, especially that time with King Qingguang. Thanks to Constable God's timely arrival, my life was saved. Deputy Lin, please don't tease me anymore. Seeing that the case of the Golden Needle cult was about to be concluded, Lin Yuxi also had the intention to temporarily give up on pestering him. He also changed his mind and wanted to re-establish his relationship with Lin Yuxi so that he would not cause trouble in the future. Thus, there was a hint of weakness in his words. Of course, he also hinted at Lin Yuxi. Constable God Yulong personally participated in the discovery of King Qingguang and personally confirmed it. How can you solve the case better than Constable God? No matter how suspicious you are, can you suspect Constable God? Lin Yuxi clicked his tongue a few times, but in the end, he did not say anything. She had her own plans. Just as they were talking, the singing event in the hall had officially begun. Chapter 8:15. The auction went on as usual, without any ripples. There were no treasures that caught Jiang Wang's attention, nor were there any red-faced buyers. Most of them were silently weighing their budget, bidding if it was within the budget, and giving up if it was beyond it. In the end, that emerald fragrant vine was sold for a price of 700 Dao yuan stones and was bought by a black-clothed man. Jiang Wang had already memorized Wu Yiyu's appearance. It was not this person. In addition, during the auction, there were 2 people competing, but they did not show any strong desire to obtain the jade fragrant vine, each of them only increasing the price once. The buyer who obtained the jade fragrant vine and the 2 people who competed both needed to be investigated. Jiang Wang prepared to track down the black-clothed man himself, leaving the other 2 people to be investigated by Chongxian Xin. Halfway through the auction, the black-clothed man stood up and left. It was obvious that he came specifically for the jade fragrant vine. Jiang Wang, who received the news, prepared to follow him. Lin Yuxi spoke at this time. Lord Jiang, Wu Yiyu did not appear. It means that he is also wary of this. He will not give up on the jade fragrant vine. He probably chose to ask someone to buy it on his behalf. If you rashly follow him now, you will be easily exposed. Her words were reasonable, but she did not say it before. It was obvious that she wanted to see a joke. Jiang Wang glanced at her. Then Constable Lin will go personally? He did not have much confidence in his tracking skills. No matter what Lin Yuxi's attitude was, it was best to resolve this matter as soon as possible. Why go through so much trouble? Lin Yuxi smiled. I've already left a mark on the jade fragrant vine. We can wait a few days for it to reach the final buyer. Then we can go find him. Jiang Wang's heart trembled. This was the tactic of an experienced blue metal constable. He also carefully played with the jade fragrant vine, trying to remember some of its aura, wanted to see if the recollection Dao technique could have any effect. But he did not notice the mark left by Lin Yuxi at all. One had to know that he was 2 whole mansion realms higher than Lin Yuxi. Furthermore, he was an inner mansion cultivator with sacred arts comparable to a normal outer mansion cultivator. In terms of battle prowess, he could completely crush Lin Yuxi. Lin Yuxi's accumulation in this area was not something a blue metal constable like him could compare with. What Constable Lin said is an experienced strategy. Jiang Wang nodded in agreement. He sat down for the time being and waited for the concert to end. Time would never stop for anyone. The concert was coming to an end. At this time, the buyers were bidding for an item called the Blazing Dazzling Stone. It was said to be the essence of fire, a fragment that fell from the sun. The competition for this item seemed to be fierce. There were many people bidding for it. At this moment, Chongxian Xin walked into the private room. Brother Jiang, have you found the person you're looking for? I'm not sure yet, Jiang Wang said casually. Then do we still need to track them? He was in another private room, but Jiang Wang hadn't given him any instructions for a long time, so he decided to ask. There's no need. Jiang Wang glanced at Lin Yuxi. After getting confirmation, he said, We'll go and catch them directly in 2 days. Chongxian Xian naturally didn't have any objections. He smiled and said, "Anyway, our men are always waiting for your orders." "Thank you." Jiang Wang thought for a while and said, "Just leave one person behind, just in case. Tell the others to go back." Previously, he had asked Chongxian Xian to mobilize some men to guard the hall. He was afraid that there would be too many people competing for the Chui Fong Luo, and they wouldn't be able to keep watch. Now that Lin Yuxi had locked onto Wu Yu, he was confident that he could take him down alone. He even asked Chongxian Xian to leave one person behind, just in case. If there were any accidents, he could still use the Zhenggenjia's power in time. "Okay, then I'll stay." Chongxian Xian left enthusiastically to withdraw his men. Lin Yuxi looked at the door that was gently closed and said thoughtfully, "It seems that the Zhenggenjia thinks highly of you." Jiang Wang shook his head and said, "It's all because of Cheng Gongsheng's influence." Lin Yuxi didn't say anything else. She wasn't stupid. No matter how influential Cheng Gongsheng was, it was impossible for him to lead the family to invest in a worthless person. He wasn't the head of the family, so he couldn't have the final say in the Zhenggenjia. It could only be said that the Zhenggenjia also approved of Jiang Wang's future. "Let's go back and wait. There's nothing else to see." Jiang Wang got up and opened the door again before the concert ended. Just as he was about to walk out, a person happened to pass by the door and turned to take a look. Jiang Wang then saw that under the hood was an extremely ordinary face. It was very ordinary, but very familiar. He remembered this ordinary face, Sun Di, Songfeng City, World Tower, Asu. The first time they met, he gave him the news of the White Bone sect, but it seemed that the news didn't reach the Yang court. The second and last time they met was outside the battlefield of Qiyang. Jiang Wang told him the news of the Yang army's defeat. They hadn't seen each other since. He had almost forgotten about this unreliable assassin. He had only met two people from the unreliable assassin organization called World Tower. One was Su Xiuxing, and the other was Ah Su. One was more unreliable than the other. Even if the Yang kingdom didn't fall, the assassin organization would go bankrupt sooner or later. He just didn't expect to see this person again in the coastal islands. Jiang Wang opened his mouth and was about to say hello, but the person had already turned and left in a hurry. "Target?" Chongxian asked Jiang Wang. He had just finished arranging things and came over. "No, someone I've met before." "Friend? Enemy?" Chongxian was eager to try. It seemed that he really wanted to show off in front of Jiang Wang to make up for the past cracks. Neither. Jiang Wang could understand his mentality, so he said, "Can you help me find out what this person bought just now?" "Okay." Chongxian left energetically. This person is very vigilant and hurried. Even the slightest movement will affect him. If he doesn't have ulterior motives, he's a fugitive. Lin Yuxi also walked out and immediately threw out a paragraph of analysis. Then he smiled and said meaningfully, "Lord Jiang, how do you know everyone? You have a lot of connections. I think you've been a constable for too long. Everyone you meet is a fugitive." Jiang Wang replied coldly. Although he looked disdainful, his heart was moved. The Yang kingdom had completely submitted to the Qi. This Asu wasn't in the Qi territory, but in the coastal islands. Was he from a Yang kingdom who didn't want to be part of the Qi people? In other words, he was a remnant of the Yang kingdom, and his behavior just now was indeed a little too hurried. Lin Yuxi sneered. "If this was the Qi territory, I'd be able to catch him easily. However, the matters of the offshore islands are not within my jurisdiction." Jiang Wang frowned unhappily. "You're so arbitrary. Do you never catch the wrong person?" Lin Yuxi suddenly turned his head and stared at him. "Do you think you know everything? Lord Jiang, if you're not wearing a blue medal, then you're wearing a blue medal." Without waiting for Jiang Wang's response, he left with heavy footsteps. Jiang Wang was puzzled. "Brother Jiang, I got it." Chongxian ran back with great efficiency. That person just now said that he wanted to buy a blazing stone. He offered a very high price. He should have a lot of money. Blazing stone? Jiang Wang furrowed his brows. Chapter 816. Blazing obsidian stones were said to be fragments of the sun and were very expensive. Also didn't seem like a rich person, and World Tower was definitely not an organization that could make money. So where did he get the money? Why did he buy the blazing obsidian stones? However, these doubts only lingered in Jiang Wang's mind for a while. In the end, they had nothing to do with him, so he didn't think too much about it. Instead of worrying about Ah Su, whose background he didn't know, it was better to think about why Lin Yuxi was angry. After all, Lin Yuxi could interfere with him to a great extent and would really affect his actions. She could restrain her temper in many situations, but she seemed to be particularly concerned about Jiang Wang's evaluation of her as arbitrary. She couldn't stand it. Was it because of the honor of the blue metal being passed down in the family? She couldn't stand being questioned? Or is there something else? In the blink of an eye, 2 days had already passed since the concert. There was an island north of Seagate Island. Looking down from the sky, it looked like a hanging axe. It was originally called Hanging Axe Island, but because the word axe was too fierce, it was renamed Woodcutter Island. It was taken from the phrase, fishing with satisfaction, woodcutter with a smile. It meant that one could get a woodcutter with an axe and be satisfied. It was the best wishes of the islanders for life. There were 3 small sects on this island, each occupying an area. Usually, they lived in peace with each other and rarely had any disturbances. A cloaked man of medium build hurried across the silver sand path and walked toward a small courtyard by the sea. This was Jade Toad Sect's territory, and the silver sand was one of Woodcutter Island's specialties. This kind of fine silver sand was cool in nature and had a special effect when used in forging. Every year, the Lin family of Southern Distance would come here to purchase large quantities. The owner of this small courtyard must be extraordinary to be able to pave the road with silver sand. When he reached the courtyard, the cloaked man was clearly nervous. He first moved his body slightly to relax his muscles. At the same time, some light-colored powder sprinkled down from between his fingers, silently blending into the environment. After making these preparations, he looked around for a while before reaching out to knock on the door. Creak, creak, the courtyard door opened by itself. There was no one waiting behind the door. Does anyone care about reincarnation? The cloaked man said and threw out an incision. There was still no response. The cloaked man then walked inside. As he walked, he looked left and right. The courtyard was so clean that there wasn't even a stone table, let alone flowers, plants, fish, or insects. He glanced over, but it was empty. The entire courtyard was silent. Even the sound of the waves seemed to be far away. The silence ended when he was about to step into the central room. A coarse and hoarse voice broke the silence. "Who are you?" The owner of the voice seemed to be very unaccustomed to speaking, and it sounded very difficult to speak. The man in the cloak lifted his cloak, revealing a gentle face in his 50s. His face was full of smiles. "It's me, Wu Yu. I have cooperated with your organization before." Just by looking at Wu Yu's appearance, it was hard to believe that he was a person who could be so ruthless to his senior martial brother who grew up with him. And he didn't look like a traitor at all. He looked really kind. At that moment, he didn't know where the owner of the courtyard was, so he was still looking around as he spoke. Suddenly, a gloomy face appeared in front of him. Wu Yu was shocked and quickly stepped back to distance himself and looked away. "I didn't see anything." He didn't dare to look at the other person's face for fear of being silenced, but he also didn't dare to not stare at the other person for fear of being attacked, so he looked very awkward. "No, it doesn't matter." The person with the gloomy face said, "My face isn't important." No, it's very important, Corner Lord Wong." Wu Yu panicked. "Unless I have passed your review and become a member of the Doorless Hell." He had a connection with the Doorless Hell long ago. He had healed the assassins of the Doorless Hell many times. Of course, this was not something that the Golden Needle Society would allow. Once exposed, Chi Ting would hold him responsible. He was greedy for huge profits and had accepted such missions many times in private. In a sense, he was one of the hidden forces of the Doorless Hell in Chi. However, he was only a peripheral force, not a core force. This time, he came here to work hard to join the core. He wanted to become one of the Yama Kings of the Doorless Hell and fill the vacated positions due to death. If he became one of the Yama Kings, he would naturally be able to see the corner lord's face without worry. Otherwise, he was worried that he would be silenced. However, Wu Yu obviously didn't understand what the corner lord meant when he said that his face wasn't important. The corner lord also had no intention of explaining. He just stared at him. "You said yourself?" Wu Yu inexplicably felt that the corner lord's gaze on him was like a beast inspecting some kind of food, judging which part was more delicious. This feeling made him shudder, and he hurriedly explained, "I told Little Ghost before that she wanted to join the Doorless Hell. She said that you have the highest status in the sea and asked me to look for you. She said that she had already reported to you." Little Ghost was the pseudonym of one of the foreign affairs leaders of the Doorless Hell. She had been active in the offshore islands recently, and she was the one who had contacted Wu Yu. The corner lord had been staying in the offshore islands ever since he escaped from the Qi border. This was probably something that many people didn't expect. "Oh, I remember now," the corner lord said blankly, paused for a moment, and then continued. "We, indeed, are short of people. Some died." Wu Yu flattered. To be able to assassinate a doctor from the Qi Ministry of Rights in Linzi, our Doorless Hell, is already very impressive. Some deaths and injuries are inevitable. Moreover, a strong person like you, aren't you still safe and sound? He deliberately didn't look at the corner lord's face, so he didn't notice that the corner lord's facial muscles didn't even twitch. However, he had heard Corner King's emotionless voice. The corner lord completely ignored the content of his words and only said, "I can't make the decision." He stretched out his right hand, and his pale, bloodless palm opened in front of Wu Yu. "One primeval stone. Oh." Wu Yu was stunned for a moment, but quickly reacted. He took out a primeval stone from his storage box, put it in a small cloth bag, and placed it in the corner lord's hand. Although it pained him, he didn't dare to hesitate. The Tao primeval stone was the most basic currency in the cultivation world. It contained 100 pieces of Tao primeval stones. 10,000 primeval stones were 10,000 pieces of Tao primeval stones, and primeval was the foundation, the origin. 1,000,000 pieces of Tao primeval stones were gathered in one stone. One primeval stone was 1,000,000 pieces of primeval stones, which was the price of an A-grade meridian unlocking pill. It wasn't expensive to use this as the entry fee to join the Doorless Hell. However, he had never heard of an entry fee to join such a dangerous assassin organization. Wu Yu's doubts didn't last long, because after the corner lord took the primeval stone, he quickly pinched his 10 fingers and operated a Tao technique. Finally, he put his palms together and opened a silver-white light screen in front of him. The light screen shook slightly for a moment, then stabilized. A handsome face appeared on the light screen. Although he had never seen him with his own eyes, Wu Yu already knew who he was: Doorless Hell, King Qingguang. Chapter 817. In the entire No Door to Hell, only King Qingguang, who was ranked first among the 10 great Yama kings, never wore a mask and always showed his true face to others. He never even hid that he would kill his way back to your country one day. Of course, from Wu Yu's current interaction, the No Door to Hell's Corner King did not seem to like wearing a mask. Corner? On the silver screen, Yingguan raised his eyebrows. "He wants." Corner King pointed at Wu Yu and said with difficulty, "Join, become Yama. Little brat, recommend." Yingguan then shifted his gaze. Wu Yu hurriedly put on a smile. "Greetings, Lord King Qingguang." At this moment, he finally understood that the one primeval stone that Corner King wanted was for the communication fee. "You have to pay for this too? And it's so expensive? If you're so good at doing business, why are you still an assassin?" He roared in his heart. Corner King still stood there coldly. He did not speak and did not care about Wu Yu's mood or the result. On the silver screen, Yingguan said to Wu Yu, "Introduce yourself." "I have worked with No Door to Hell a long time ago." Wu Yu hurriedly said, "I am Elder Wu Yu of Golden Needle Sect. I have received the teachings of Golden Needle Sect." The previous sect leader was my master. The current sect leader is my senior brother. I am skilled in medicine. I can help our organization. Ingguan interrupted him. Why do you want to join us? Wu Yu paused for a while, then gritted his teeth. Golden Needle sect treated me unfairly. My dead master passed Golden Needle sect to my senior brother, who is far inferior to me. What about my senior brother? He passed the position to his disciple. He is an even more stupid and useless person. Generation after generation, it was passed down like this. What about me? What about me? Speaking of this, he was obviously very angry. I worked so hard, sacrificed so much, did so much for the sect. What did I get in the end? The passing calamity ring will never be passed to me. I will never be the sect leader. He said fiercely. So I attacked my senior brother, that idiot. A fierce glint flashed past his eyes. He turned back and said, I want to join No Door to Hell, because this is a fair place, a place that only looks at strength and contribution. You get what you pay. Doing things that put one's life on the line and reaping the rewards of doing so. He didn't look at those bootlickers, nor did he have any selfish thoughts. I just want fairness. You need protection. Ingguan directly exposed his inner thoughts. You want the protection of the gates of hell. Because you betrayed your sect, you will be hunted down by Qi Blue Metal. Wu Yu licked his dry lips. For the gates of hell, that's not much of a burden, is it? Yes, we even killed people in Linzi. Ingguan shook his head. But that's not the reason. Qin Yi responded bluntly. You can join the gateless hell, but there's no place for you in the position of Yama King. Why? Wu Yu asked agitatedly. If I can't become the King Yinluo of hell, then what's the point of joining the gateless hell? Those peripheral members were existences that could be abandoned at any time. That was not what he wanted. What he wanted was the blue metal that would help him escape the pursuit and help him deal with Qi. But as soon as he asked, he quickly apologized. I'm sorry. It's not that I don't respect you. It's just that the position of Yama King is currently vacant in our organization, isn't it? I'm a medical cultivator and an outer building cultivator at that. He should have the right to do so. I can make a great contribution to the organization. Is it because I betrayed the sect? Do you think I'm disloyal? He was clearly anxious. That's because the Golden Needle cult let me down. It's not my fault. Ingguan patiently waited for him to finish speaking. It doesn't matter whether you're loyal or not. It doesn't matter whether you harbor resentment or who you resent. I don't care what kind of person you are. It doesn't matter whether you're good or bad. But you're not strong enough. He continued on the other end of the silver screen of light. You haven't done enough for your hatred and resentment. I don't see anything in you that can support you to go further. I don't know. Wu Yu shook his head. I don't know what you're talking about. What do you mean by support? What? I respect you. You're strong. But I'm not weak either. I'm stronger than my senior brother. I'm outstanding. Ingguan clearly wasn't interested in dispelling his doubts, only saying, this topic ends here. His voice wasn't loud, but it was enough for everyone who heard it to acknowledge his determination. In the silver screen of light, Ingguan looked at the Corner King. Corner, don't touch him. We're not bandits. After saying this, his face disappeared completely, and the silver screen of light dissipated as well. Wu Yu suddenly felt dazed. He understood that this was the final decision of the gateless hell. Ingguan undoubtedly had the highest authority in this assassination organization. It could even be said that the reason why this organization had risen to fame recently was mostly due to Ingguan. Under the pressure of Arrestor Yulong, this person had broken through to the god arrival stage. This battle example had been discussed by countless people in the eastern region. No one disagreed. Therefore, he had completely lost the possibility of being protected by the gateless hell. And a large maritime sect like the Fishing Sea Tower had always been wary of foreign cultivators. Furthermore, he had a dishonorable history, so he definitely wouldn't be trusted. Perhaps he could go to the southern region to live in the state of Xia. Wu Yu, who had these thoughts in his mind, was completely unaware that he had just walked through the gates of hell. He didn't realize the reason behind Ingguan's words. If it weren't for Ingguan's warning, he would have already been dismembered. There was no need to consider anything else. Coroner Lord Wong. His mind whirling, Wu Yu suddenly raised his head and said, "I'm asking you to go on a mission. Help me kill the current leader of the Golden Needle sect, Wu Yu, and his eldest disciple, Wu Qiji. If the victim's family died, it would be difficult to continue the Blue Metal's pursuit." He had indeed thought it through very clearly. But his interest was dampened by King Qingguang. The Corner King clearly wasn't in a very good mood. "I won't take responsibility. Accept the mission. You better find someone else." His voice was hoarse and bitter, and it carried an extremely strong resentment. But he couldn't ignore King Qingguang's opinion. He couldn't before King Qingguang had broken through to the God Arrival stage, and he couldn't do anything now. Wu Yu still didn't understand what the Corner King's attitude meant, but the chill in his heart was so clear. He hurriedly said, "Okay, I'll go find Little Ghost. Corner Lord Wong, farewell." Before he left, he very politely said his farewells. But when he glanced around, he already couldn't see anyone. He cursed these lunatics in his heart, but his face was full of humility. He put on his cloak again and hurriedly left the small courtyard. Stepping on a silver sand path, he still bowed his head. Rats in the gutter could no longer be protected by sunlight, so they were especially afraid of the dark. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.